Hello. Welcome to my den, where I have a lovely fire and an even lovelier cat. Now, tonight is a night where, thank you Draven for subscribing again for 36 months. Tonight, I will be reading It's a different cat. This is Charles. Scratchy, scratchy. I will be reading from a book. Well, let's not call it a book. A story that I wrote. Do I sound okay? A story I wrote 20 years ago. It's not a finished story. It's a story, though. I wrote it as a school project that I abandoned and decided to do something even lazier. I am incredibly hot in this, KTD. This is a genuine leather jacket from Vietnam. My dad was given it to him for saving the life of a fighter pilot on the deck of the USS Oriskany. And I'm not making any of this shit up. This is like actual fucking leather. You'll probably hear it. Look, here's some ASMR for you. I will stay hydrated. I have my water from, of course it's the green one. I have my water. This is, why would it matter that it's green? I have my water from Mount Fuji. It's refraction. It's light refraction. Don't worry about it. So welcome to my humble den. It is raining, as you can see, but we'll not let that get our mood down today. Let me just grab my tome that's not a 3-ring binder with the prophecy scrawled on the back of it. This is going to be a very embarrassing story. Because I wrote it 20 years ago. I was 13 years old when I wrote this. And it will be very evident. Now, I don't know how interesting it's going to be. I've got some classical music in the background. So hopefully that helps. I'm sorry that my video camera quality is ass at best. It seems that if I'm not 2 feet from it, everything looks blurry and out of focus, but let's be quite honest. That should be fine. You're not missing much. Just move my hair. By the way, fuck the character for a second. So we considered like slicking my hair back to look all weird, so I was like, okay, let's try to do this. Look how fucking wonky my hairline is. Look at this. What the fuck what is happening with it? Look at it. Yeah, a half line. Like, what is that about? Why? I didn't even know. Anyway, how's the cat doing? Still sleeping. I feel like I've delayed and Look, I just want to show you the title for a moment, if you can see it. It's all a bunch of scrawlings and stuff. The Prophecy, or Khad Prophecy, or The Prophecy, but in Latin. I literally wrote in Latin, not writing it in Latin. Not the words, it's still The Prophecy, it's still in English. But apparently I was too lazy to just go look up what that would be in Latin and write that instead. You say it's going to be good. I'm 50-50 on this. This could be embarrassingly bad in a funny way, or it could be bad after the novelty wears off in 10 minutes, it's going to be boring and stupid. I'll try to gauge your reactions. I don't know if this is going to take the whole stream. I realized on Wednesday. Prophecy Tai. Thank you, Espada. I realized today that Wednesday I said we were going to try to finish the Doom 3 DLC today, and I was sitting there about a couple hours ago going, wait a minute. Oh my god, my circus eye is really bad right now. Then I said, wait a minute. I was going to do the reading stream today. So I rushed all this shit together. So I had to get the den ready for filming. Anyway, the stalling and delaying, I guess, must end. Now, I've read part of Chapter 1 to you guys, but we will be starting at Chapter 1, for it is only proper. Chapter 1. Velen was cautiously walking through the creature-infested areas of Elwyn Forest. No relation. As he walked slowly along, trying not to make a single sound, not even the snapping of a twig. He heard something moving in the bushes. He turned around slowly to see a small goblin with a bow right behind high. Thud! An arrow went through Velen's kneecap. His blood oozed slowly down his leg onto the forest floor. Velen fell down with a pain-filled cry and watched as the goblin climbed onto his chest and raised a dented, banged-up club into the air to come crashing down on Velen's skull. As the goblin drew back, an arrow, as if from nowhere, flew through the air and took off the goblin's hand in one shot. Its black, stench-filled blood oozed all over as the goblin let out an ear-bleeding scream. As the goblin started to run, another arrow sliced through its skull and killed him before he hit the ground. Velen saw a cloaked figure dressed in black approaching him as he passed out because of the pain. This arrow to the knee thing, this was 20 years ago. This was before Skyrim, okay? Oblivion jobs. If anything, Todd's going to hear from my lawyers. I can tell a 14-year-old wrote this? Well, that's weird because a 13-year-old wrote this, Espada. Velen slowly opened his eyes and found he was in an inn, lying on his bed. He first assumed it was all a dream until a sharp, gruesome pain jumped up his leg when he tried to move. Velen bit into his lip, causing blood to trickle down his chin. He heard the door creak open. He wondered whom it could be, and if it was the person who had saved him from death. A dark figure entered the room, hooded, and a bow on his back. Oops. Velen asked with a weak and brittle voice, Who are you? The figure slowly raised his hand and withdrew the hood off his head. I am Khad Gar Dimension. You seem to be having some troubles, so I thought I could help. This is gonna be so fucking hard to read. Alright. Thank you, Mr. Khad. I owe you more than I can repay. It doesn't get sexual, I promise. Replied Velen. Is okay. And call me Khad. But next time, don't into the dangerous part of the forest alone. It's not a wise idea, as you have found out. Weeks passed. P-A-S-T. And the two got to know each other. Velen found out that Khad was an elven thief, strike rogue, and a master at the bow and dagger. Hold on. I had to wipe my eyes a little bit here. Okay, let's get these back on. Where was I? Khad learned that Velen was a traveling monk who was venturing to the Temple of Helm. No relation. Located near the forest. As Velen healed, he was about to depart, and he asked Khad to come. Khad accepted, and they started for the hills of Azeroth. As the day grew older. What? As the day grew older, they had to set up camp. Let's not ruin the illusion here. They were at the base of the mountains, where they set up a tent and started a fire. As it got dark, and they had finished their meals, Velen started to talk. Guess he didn't talk the whole time. So, Khad, you never told me where or when you were born. Khad hesitated and then answered, "No, I refuse to read this." Oh God, really? Oh. So, Khad, you never told me where or when you were born. Khad hesitated and then answered, "I wasn't born. I was created from the souls of the great elder Khadgar had taken from his victims. He used electricity to bind them together." Can't stop. Oh my God, I'm actually crying. Hold on. Wow! Now I've heard of everything, replied Velen. I doubt that, said Khad. The two laughed for a moment, and then Khad stopped and motioned to Velen to keep quiet. Something was obviously in the woods behind them, making a lot of noise. Then, all at once, he grabbed his dagger and threw it behind him, piercing a kobold's lung, killing it slowly. Khad got up and pulled his dagger from the kobold and cleaned it off. Cobalt, not kobold. No copyright. I believe we should get some sleep tonight, said Velen. I agree, replied Khad. Velen got into the tent and Khad sat down watching the fire. Hours later, Khad was still sitting there, not showing any signs of being tired. Something had wakened Velen, and he went out to see what it was. When did you get up? Asked Velen. I never went to sleep. Elves only have to sleep 3 hours every 5 days. I slept last night. I'm an elf now? What? I thought it was an electricity soul thing. What is this? And I'm just like pulling straight out from the DM guide or the player's handbook about elves and their sleeping schedules. Well, you were right when you said I haven't heard it all, Velen said as he had a chuckle in his voice. They decided to head out and travel through the mountain trails. When they were halfway up the mountain, they had to cross a large field of snow. On the other side, they saw 5 orcs talking and laughing amongst their foul breath. Khad got about 120 yards away from them and looked closely. One of them was very large and seemed to be in charge. He was the first target. Khad pulled the string on his bow back and let the arrow fly. It hit the orc directly in the left eye. Why is it a fucking Dr. Seuss thing now? The orc died before any of the others could respond. Khad saw one was trying to sniff the air. He was facing towards Khad and away from the others. Khad let fly another arrow and it hit the orc in the middle of the forehead, which sent the orc back into one of its fellow orcs. The arrow entered the back of the skull of that orc. 2 were left when they saw Velen. They ran at him quickly. One swung his sword at Velen. Velen caught the blade between his index and middle finger. Wait, and disarmed the beast. This is the same fucking guy who was getting taken out by a goblin earlier. The orc looked confused for a moment, and Velen snapped the orc's neck. The other orc had a large axe and swung it blindly at Velen. Velen ducked under the axe. The orc swung at his feet, but Velen did a backflip over it, and kicked the orc to the ground on his way down, landing on his feet, the orc on his back. I have to roll 1d4 to determine how many hours of sleep I need. The orc grabbed Velen's leg and swung him up into the air and slammed him into the ground. Velen coughed up some blood and lay there trying to get up. The orc was about to put his axe into Velen when Khad sent a lightning bolt into the orc, blowing the orc back 20 or 30 feet. The orc got up and ran towards Khad. Khad did a backflip. The toe of his boots hit the orc under the chin, jarring the orc back. V landed on his neck, snapping his spine. Hopefully it was the orc. Khad helped up Velen and said, "Not bad for a human." Velen shook his head and replied, "Very funny." They crossed the rest of the field without any problems and soon arrived at the summit of the mountain, where there was a large castle towering over them. They entered. That's the sentence. They entered. They walked into the tavern area in the castle and heard sounds of laughter. The clinking of dishes and talking filled the room. It was very warm and comfortable. Khad found a couch and sat down. Velen went to the bar. Velen ordered a drink and noticed a group of 4 drunks sitting at a table nearby. It's near space by. They could be heard over everyone in the tavern. The rudest and most arrogant was belching and cussing loudly. A small man with thin arms walked over and asked, "Can you please put that cigar out?" "Bah ha ha ha! What do you think you're gonna do about it?" replied the arrogant fool. He then blew smoke into the man's face. He started to walk away, and Khad grabbed the man by one of the man's frail arms. "You're, Y-O-U-R, going to take that crap from them?" asked Khad. Next page. The man replied, "Well, there isn't much I can do." Khad sighed, got up, walked over to the table and said, "Mind putting out the cigar?" The man laughed in his face and blew smoke in his face as well. "You foolish, arrogant oaf," said Khad, before he flipped his dagger from under his cloak and sliced the cigar in half. "That's it, you little elf. You're, Y-O-U-R, going down now." The pompous fool got up and swung at Khad. Khad ducked under the punch and spun back, leg sweeping the man. Two of the men's buddies came up and grabbed Khad by the arms. The oaf got up and was about to punch Khad in the stomach. Khad caught the punch between his heels, H-E-A-L-S, and broke the man's wrist, making the man fall and cry with pain. Khad did a backflip over the two and snapped one's neck. The other picked up a chair to hit Khad with, but Velen kicked the man in the back so hard it snapped his spine. This, of course, is the proper reaction to someone blowing their cigar smoke in someone else's face. The small, frail man looked in amazement as Khad and Velen, after taking out... Wait, what? The small, frail man looked in amazement as Khad and Velen, after taking out 5 other men that were barbaric in form but slow as well. Your guess is as good as mine what that sentence means. Finally, when it was finished, about 16 men were lying around, bleeding or dead. What the fuck? While Khad and Velen were untouched. Wonder how many backflips we just skipped. Khad looked over to Velen and nodded. On the way out, he patted the small man on the shoulder and said, "There, no more cigar smoke. I said I'll kill an entire tavern of people for you. There, no more cigar smoke." Then they walked out of the tavern and headed up some stairs, which were blocked off by 2 guards. Velen pinched a part of the guard's shoulders, which made both pass out and roll down the stairs. You'll have to teach me that one, said Khad. Well, we're almost to the temple. This will be a faster way than walking, said Velen. I feel like they're murder hobos. They walked through a series of doors until they came to 2 large doors that creaked open as the old rusty hinges gave way. The snow was almost blinding from the sun bouncing off of it. And now, they must pass through the graveyard. Khad and Velen walked into the graveyard. As they entered, the light seemed to diminish. They looked around and heard a moaning, like someone was dying. They turned around to see 3 zombies slowly approaching. Khad sent 3 arrows into one, almost shredding the old decaying flesh. Velen kicked one back several feet, and the force knocked its already rotten head off. The other got very close to Velen, but he summoned a cold chill upon it, freezing it, and as it hit the ground, it shattered. They turned back around to see an opening to a crypt. They entered, hoping it would lead to the temple. I don't know why they're going to a temple. We didn't really establish that they needed to go to a temple, but here we are. They're heading to a temple. Since when is he a wizard? Since page 3. That's right, we're only 3 pages. This is 61 pages long. Now, mind you, these first couple pages are typed. The rest is handwritten. As they entered, the smell of death inflamed their nostrils. Velen almost lost all he had in his stomach, but Khad showed no sign of sickness. As if he were used to it, which he was. They walked for a while, and it was nearly dark, but the burning torches on the walls were aflame. As they neared the end of the hall, Velen vomited onto the stone floor. In front of them was a table covered in blood. Bones lay under it with rotting green flesh on them. There were 3 severed heads stuck upon poles behind the platform. In front of the platform was a vat the size of a king-sized bed, filled with blood. Khad looked into the Khad looked into the blood and it seemed still. The disturbing quiet was all that could be heard. As if from nowhere, A blood-covered hand grabbed Khad and tried to pull him in. Khad fought it and stumbled back. Out of the vat, a large golem made of veins and blood arose from the blood. His armor was made of the corpses of many bones. The corpses of many bones. And skulls. And blood. Do you think I played a lot of Diablo back then? His weapon was a human wrapped in veins. The body was crushed from its frequent use. The beast let out an ear-bleeding scream that filled the room. 2 red eyes could be seen from the bone helmet that surrounded... From the bone helmet surrounding its head. The torches all at once lit up around the room. On the walls, bodies were hung. Not one part of the wall could be seen. Khad and Velen had entered the halls of the dead. Khad ran to the side, shooting arrows into the golem, but not affecting it. Affecting it. The golem turned and Velen jumped upon it. He climbed to the top of the golem. The golem swung back and forth trying to get Velen off. Velen was able to grab the helmet as he was thrown off. The helmet coming with him. The golem turned to pound Velen with his human weapon. Khad sent an arrow screaming through the air into the back of the golem's head. The golem turned to face him and hit Khad in the side with the flesh club. Sending him into the wall of bodies. Velen was unconscious and bleeding from his nose, mouth, and head. Velen bleeds a lot. Also, first time we've seen Khad actually take damage. In fact, Khad could hardly see. It seemed the golem was going to finish him off. As the golem let out a cry of victory, he raised the weapon high. But the golem soon was enveloped in an orb of ice that shot glaciers around the room, sticking into the flesh walls. The golem was torn in half by the orb, and its blood rushed all over the room, covering Khad and Velen. What was that? Velen again woke up to find himself in a bed. He was alone in the room this time, and walked into the hallway. He looked around and realized he was in the temple. He had asked to see the high priest and found his way. As he entered the cathedral, he went to the high priest. By the way, one time I capitalized high priest, the other time I did not. And asked, "Did the elven make it alive?" The priest looked at him and replied, "Elven? We didn't see an elf when we found you in the crypts." Meanwhile, Khad had just awakened. He found himself in a small room. It looked as if the entire room was made of wood instead of stone. Okay. He opened the flimsy door and saw a slim woman about his height. 5'8". I actually wrote in parentheses 5'8". And he asked who she was. "I am Zeldiana, Mr. Khadgoroth Dimension. I knew you were in trouble." "How did you know my name?" replied Khad. "I am half of the prophecy that must be fulfilled. I have a soul link with you." Khad thought back about dreams he had. About someone being by his side when he was fighting some devastating monster that was named Kretz. Not Zeldion. Zeldiana? Oblivion? This was before Divinity Original Sin. They ripped me off. This was the year 2000 when I wrote this. KTD spelled it right. She somehow spelled Zeldiana right. That is... yeah, that is how I have it spelled in here. You're the person in my dream? Asked Khad. Yes. And that monster is Kretz, the most evil creature ever created, Khadgoroth. We have quite a long way to travel. Let's be going. Khad got on his armor. Like, climbed on it, I guess. And weapons. And as he walked back out, he said, well, since we're going to be stuck together for a while, you may as well call me Khad. Zeldiana nodded, and they walked out of the small house and began their journey to find Kretz, the Lord of Annihilation. Chapter 1. Finished. So, now that Chapter 1 is finished, should I do a Q&A after each chapter? Your favorite part was the blood golem? Yes? You guys want a Q&A after each chapter? I'll try to answer the best I can. Surprise swap of main characters. Yeah, and did you notice that Khad didn't go, where's Velen? Where's this guy that I've been like hanging out and being best buds with for the last month or so? Didn't even give a fuck about that guy. Can you explain how we got from a tower to a bar to a temple? Because I didn't not follow that at all. Well, I think what happened, they went to a kingdom, and the castle towered over them. It wasn't a tower. And then in the kingdom, they went to a tavern, which is where the bar was. They beat up everyone in the bar. They then left the tavern and walked through some gates, knocking out some guards or something. And then got to the graveyard, and for some reason the temple was in the crypt of the graveyard, or there was a shortcut. I think Velen was saying it was a shortcut. We take a shortcut through the catacombs or something to get to the temple, I guess, instead of just walking there on the road normally. We had to have a reason for the blood golem. There was a lot of getting off meat clubs and pounding in the golem part. Yes, there was. Yes, there was. Very astute observation, K2D. You might just get an A+ in this class after all. Did anyone ever read this? Yes. So, Chapter 1, the chapter I just read, I turned in for a creative writing assignment my freshman year in high school. I got like 100 on it. Like, I got a perfect grade on this somehow, even though there are spelling errors, grammar errors. It tells me that they probably read the first paragraph and were like, fuck this, and just 100, get out of my face. I hope that's what they did. Yeah, there's no way the teacher read this. I thought this was amazing, by the way. I thought I did so good with detail and really putting you in the environment. I'm gonna guess your teacher didn't know what WoW was. They think a lot of Lord of the Rings or something. I don't know. They probably didn't know what WoW was, because this was before Warcraft came out. Keep that in mind. The mere thought of it might kill me by embarrassment. You know what you wouldn't like if one of your students turned in something like this, KTD? What I just read? It took half an hour to read that one chapter. Is Azeroth and Diablo? No, it's in Warcraft. But this was before World of Warcraft was out. This was like Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3 type shit. Hold on, I gotta blow my nose. Oh shit, I forgot to mute myself. Whoops. Yes, please look at the cat. The cat will make sure... Oh my god, I just hurt my arm. Oh. Oh fuck. What happened here? Okay. I pulled my, like, shoulder. Oh. Still not as bad as my Immortal. That is a short bar to reach. Let me just take my 4th dimensional water here real quick. Simon, you missed the first chapter of the prophecy. Shame on you. I promise. It doesn't get any better than this. So this is, I have the next chapter, chapter 2, is typed up as well. So, but it's only 2 pages instead of 4. So this is half the length of the first chapter. This chapter, chapter 2, was never turned in. No one but me, I think, has ever read this. From this point on, this is all new territory. I don't remember pretty much anything. This is the world premiere. Xbox. Oh wait, hold on. Let me put my glasses on here. Did you pre-read this? No. I purposely did not read any of this before this stream so that I would be just as surprised as you guys. I would think my reaction to the first chapter made that pretty evident that I did not read this ahead of time. We are all experiencing this together. This is 20 years old. I don't remember much anything from it. I remember little bits and pieces. I know little things that are going to happen. Little, like, that just stuck with me for some reason. But other than that, I don't know when they happen. I don't know how they're worded. Are you guys enjoying this? Do you guys want me to continue, by the way? After each chapter, here's what we'll do. After each chapter, we'll do a short Q&A, maybe a synopsis or something to clear up any misunderstandings. And then I will check in with you guys to see if you are still invested in continuing the story. How's that? And I might lose another article of clothing. Because it is... That fucking jacket was so hot. I don't know how I made it through that chapter. This is not much better. I might be in a t-shirt soon. Okay. Here we go. As Khad, this is chapter 2. We need a spreadsheet of all these characters and what they can do. If you guys, I'm not doing that. If you guys want to make spreadsheets of this stupid fucking story, you can do whatever you want. I am giving this story to the world today. As Khadgorath and Zeldiana traveled through the woods, a large bear jetted towards them. Oh, we're getting straight into the action, guys. As it neared, it fell to their feet. Behind the bear, in the distance, was a human with a bow. The human walked to the bear and saw Zeldiana and Khadgorath. He introduced himself as Lance, a ranger. The three got to know each other pretty well. While hiking through the woods, they came upon a small village with only a tavern, a library, and a few houses. You know, the essentials of a small village must have a library. The three's capitalized for some reason, entered the tavern, the floor creaking from being old and dry. The three sat at a table and ordered their meals. As they waited for their lunch, they saw an idiotic-looking warrior that was in the face of a bigger man. I wonder what's going to happen to him. The warrior hit the man with the blunt end of a halberd, but then was punched and fell to the floor unconscious. Lance laughed at this sight and went over to the unconscious warrior and stole his gold. Okay. Once done eating, Khadgorath rented a large room for them and went to the room to rest. Lance stayed in the tavern part of the inn, all capitalized for some reason, that's why I read it so loud, while Zeldiana went to the room soon after Khadgorath. Uh-oh. Lance left them alone and went into the forested area around the village. After walking for about an hour, he found a pond where the water was completely black. Lance started toward it, and a bubble appeared in the middle. Lance continued to walk around the dark pond, and the bubbles continued faster and faster. Lance hid behind a tree, and then a tentacle arose from the depths of the water. It patted the ground all the way around the pond until it came to the tree, which Lance was hiding behind. Lance drew his bow, but then another tentacle emerged and went around the pond the other way. The tentacle flopped onto the other tentacle and stayed still. Lance pulled out his claymore, the scabbard attached to his hip. I feel like I missed some words there. You should read The Eye of Argon sometime and compare the writing styles. Maybe. What makes this worse and more embarrassing is I actually wrote this. Be it 20 years ago when I was 13. Fuck. 20 years ago I was 13. I'm going to die soon. In one swift move, he cut off the top of the first tentacle and sank into the half of the other. He then grabbed the piece that he cut off. It wrapped around his hand. The black water started to make a dome. Something was coming up, so Lance ran for town. Lance could hear the sound of something flying at him in the air. He turned to see what it was, and a tentacle suction cup stuck to his forehead. Lance tried to move away, but he couldn't. He used his claymore and sliced through the tentacle. Black oil spurted out of the tentacle, filling Lance's eyes. Lance fell to the ground and quickly reached into his bag, grabbing a flask of water, in which he used to clean his eyes. When Lance could see again, he pulled the tentacle off his forehead with a mighty jerk. The tentacle wrapped tightly around his thumb, trying to crush it. When Lance came back to the inn, Khad and Zeldiana were sitting at a table eating lunch. Lance sat down, and as Khad saw him, he strained not to laugh. "Oh, come out with it," Lance grunted. Khad and Zeldiana burst out laughing. A moment later, when they were calmed down, Khad pulled out his money pouch to see that he had no money. Lance had very little money, and Zeldiana had no money at all. Khad looked up and said, "I can fix this." Khad walked to the bar and sat down next to an old, drunken, fat man, whom was nearly passed out. In one swift swoop, Khad swiped his coin purse. It was throbbing with gold. No one noticed it. No one noticed besides Lance and Zeldiana. Khad casually walked back to the table and threw the coin purse down in the center of the table, then turned to go back to the bar. Khad sat next to a wealthy-looking man who was drinking elven wine. Khad introduced himself to the man, shaking his hand. When he said his goodbyes to the man, he had stolen 3 rings and a golden watch. Khad returned to his table, putting down the merchandise, and threw down another coin purse that not even Lance and Zeldiana saw him take. Lance, with a surprised look on his face, said, "Huh, how did you do that, Khad?" Khad smirked and said, "I must have forgotten to tell you I'm a rogue." "A rogue?" asked Lance. Khad replied, "Yes, it's a mix between an assassin and a thief." It's a multi-class, you know. Mastered in picking pockets, locks, as well as deadly techniques of killing, such as stabbing someone in the back and killing them instantly by shattering the spine. "Okay," said Lance, clearly confused. Well, I'm so fucking confused, it was very clear. Lance then told him about the black pond, capitalized, and showed them the tentacles on his hands. He had the tentacles on his hands the whole fucking time? Okay. The three got up, paid for their meal, and Lance led the way to the pond. Khad walked to the edge of the pond and kneeled down. Soon after, a large tentacle grabbed him around the waist and slammed him into the ground. Khad's arms were tied to his body. He could not get out. Lance pulled out his bow and shot an arrow at the beast that was now fully emerged. Yep, that was now fully emerged from the depths of the black pit of vile liquid. Lance's arrow jetted through the air. Quickly, the beast put Khad in front of the arrow. Khad was hit in the left arm. Khad bit down in pain. These are the same person. I don't know why I keep switching between Khad and Khad. Lance put away his bow and pulled out his claymore as Zeldiana began to cast a spell, a red glow forming around her hands. Lance dove at the monster, swinging his claymore and cutting the tentacle holding Khad. Khad fell into the black liquid, still unable to get free from the binds. Uh-oh. Zeldiana said some odd words in an ancient tongue. A bolt of fire flew from her hands, smashing into the beast, almost hitting Lance. Lance was now on top of the beast and rose his sword, the tip facing down. He thrust down, and more than half of the claymore sunk into the head of the beast. There was a thunderous screech from the octopus-type creature. Lance was thrown back with his claymore. Lance was thrown into a tree, putting a large dent into it. I guess trees get dents. Much like this story, Lance lay motionless at the base of the tree. However, still breathing. Zeldiana dove into the liquid, the beast now barely moving. As she emerged a moment later, she had Khad still bound in the tentacle in her arms. That bitch is fucking strong, isn't she? Zeldiana pulled him to land and cut him free from the strands. Khad coughed a bit and began to breathe. Zeldiana walked to Lance and saw a small cut on the back of his head. She didn't use her energy to heal it. All of them now covered in black liquid sat down to rest. My head is cut open, Lance sobbed to Zeldiana. You'll live, replied Zeldiana. How was the rest of the battle? Said Khad weakly, chuckling. Zeldiana laughed a bit and replied, Welcome back. The three grabbed their belongings and stood, heading back to town. End of chapter 2. Do I look better with the fake glasses or not? Or worse? There's my question for you guys. Also, is the lapel mic doing alright? If the lapel mic sounds better than my normal mic, I might just start using this fucking thing for all the streams. Because it's like on me already all the time, so I don't have to worry about distance. Better with glasses. The tentacles and the thrusting, oh my. Okay, I promise you, the one thing I do know, all of the gay stuff and all of the, like, penis innuendos and everything are complete coincidence. There are explosions. What do you mean? On peas and such? Oh. Well, I normally... See, I'm looking down, too. I normally wouldn't be looking down when I'd be playing a game or something. Puh, 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 puh. Tuh, 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 tuh. Is that... It's gonna be... no one will clip anything. Is that okay? Like what I just did there when I'm facing forward? Because when I'm facing down, it's... The mic is fine, but not as good as the regular one? Really? Uh-oh. A bit better, but the quality is still noticeable. The good quality or bad quality? Oh, I see the bot finally. Did its thing. Okay. Normal mic is better? Okay. Well, for this stream, for streams like this, where it's easier to deal with, I'll still use the lapel mic. So do we have any questions? Or shall we continue on to chapter 3? I'm going to roll up my sleeves to try to salvage any... Goddamn. Oh, by the way, this was Draven's 36 months. That's as many as 12 threes, and that's nice. Jack Chicken. Thanks again for that sub earlier, Draven. Both chapters were funny, but the first was better. Yeah. I missed it. Who the hell is Lance? He's like some ranger that showed up at the beginning of chapter 2 that killed a bear that was rushing at Khad and Zeldiana. When did I discover tentacle porn? I don't think I was into tentacle porn ever, but especially not this time, during this time. Keep in mind, this is still the year 2000. The internet is still in its infancy. It wasn't as easy to just go find tentacle porn. Might have passed out in embarrassment for 2 minutes and missed it. Well, here's this will make you feel better. So those first 2 chapters were all typed, which means I had to have at least read them one more time through when I typed them up, right? The rest of the story that I have here, the bulk of the story, the remaining 6 chapters of the story, this whole big chunk here, all handwritten. And I am almost, well, I couldn't have, it can't be edited, and definitely wasn't proofread, because it's handwritten, right? Which means that I didn't go through a second phase to type it up and edit it as I went along and go, oh, that word doesn't make sense there, or anything like that. Where did I write it? At the home, in a park? Sometimes alone, in the dark? I wrote it, yeah, sometimes at home, sometimes on the bus, on my way home, sometimes during class, or in between classes if there was like, class was going to start in like 10 minutes or something, during lunch. Like, just free time, usually during school. Whenever I got home, I was too busy ready to play like Diablo and stuff. As you could tell, I straight up plagiarized a fucking spell from Diablo 2 from the sorceress with the orb. That was in chapter 1. Yes, this will be the rawest expression of the author's intent. This is the unedited author cut that we're about to get into now. Hopefully my rendition and my reading of this is suitable and satisfactory. I'm trying to put some emphasis behind things. I'm trying to keep it exciting, and I hope that I'm doing an okay job. So I will ask you then, do you wish for me to continue into chapter 3? Things probably aren't going to get as exciting as chapter 1. Chapter 1 is a doozy, because chapter 1, and what makes chapter 1 so beautiful is that it not only was handwritten, then typed, and edited, and proofread twice, and it still was awful. I don't know how bad the rest of this is going to be. Let me also show you. My handwriting changes throughout. It gets smaller and smaller and nicer, actually, as time goes on. But here is the chaotic mess I'm about to have to try to read. Okay? That is the chaotic fucking handwriting that I'm going to have to struggle with. So be patient with me, please. As I attempt, I'm trying to keep the illusion here. How's the cat doing? Okay, good, still good. All right, here we go. Chapter 3. I wish I would have named these chapters, like Chapter 2, Lance. Chapter 3, Lance's pants. Thank you. It's not Valen. Velen, V-E-L. Thank you, Valen the monk. I kick your ass for the Lord. Thank you for the $1, Valen. Whoever you are. Oh, mine is worse right now. What is this, KTD? Oh. Oh, wait a minute. Did that just ruin my... You guys saw nothing. fucking KTD. We're gonna have a discussion later. Okay, chapter 3. When they entered town, a few of the, well, shit's scribbled out, villagers. Okay, so let me, I need to go over. I apparently really had a hard time with what word I wanted to use here, and I have marked out the words towns, P-O, folk, towns, purse. That's all marked out. And I went with villagers. I'll try to just read the story, but sometimes I feel it's worth noting the chaotic mindset I must have been in. When they entered the town, a few of the villagers of the town snickered at them, others looking at them surprised or stunned, wondering what had happened to them. They walked into the tavern all at once. Khad in front, Zeldiana as well as Lance behind him. The tavern owner stood in front of them, his arms crossed, and with anger on his face. "What in the hell do you think you are? What? Wait, yeah, what in the hell do you think you are coming into my tavern like that?" Khad, Zeldiana, and Lance walked past him, P-A-S-T, as if he was an inanimate object, just blocking the path. They took turns taking a shower and changing. I guess we have plumbing in this fantasy world. When they were finished, they walked to the bar to find 3 large warriors and the tavern owner waiting for them. "You will now pay with your lives," said the tavern owner. Things escalate in this universe pretty quickly, don't they? The 3 warriors walked up, one standing in front of each. Khad, Lance, and Zeldiana. The first warrior swung at Khad, but Khad was able to duck the punch. The second warrior lifted Lance by the neck. Zeldiana put her staff vertical onto the ground, then knocked the bottom of the staff, causing the bottom part of the staff to hit the warrior in the crotch, and it was kicked so hard the staff came back to Zeldiana's hand, which she directed the top into the skull of the warrior. The warrior holding Lance then knocked Zeldiana down in one punch. Then Lance was passing out. In the blink of an eye, the warrior's arm came off at the elbow, dropping Lance to the ground. A man in black armor stood, a claymore in both hands, now covered in blood. I just introduce a new character every fucking chapter, don't I? Khad finishing off the warrior on him with a few kicks, and the owner ran out of the tavern. Khad helped Zeldiana up. Then they stood in front of the knight. The knight then took off his helm. He revealed to be a black human. I gotta have a diverse cast. Khad shook his hand and introduced himself. "My name is Akita," said the knight. Where did I get that name? The 4 walked out of the tavern after gathering their things and headed to the city of High Ground, where Akita was from. The city was a very large one, many various houses, and in the center of this city was a fountain. Around it, a marketplace. Akita's a dog? IKEA? No, it's Akita. Like, how is it that only KTD seems to be able to understand how to spell all of these names? And she's fucking Russian. but you guys are like, IKEA? Akita? I think I got this as a random name generator. I probably went on Google or whatever at the time and was like, random black people names, and this is what showed up, is probably how I got this name. Because I have no idea. Like at least like Khad, you know, whatever. Zeldiana was like the sorceress I had in Diablo 2. Velen is a name I'll use for characters sometimes. Lance is like a typical kind of name. I forgot I put this song in here. I literally just went and I downloaded a bunch of royalty-free classical music, and I guess the Star Spangled Banner is it here? Thank you, Hood Fabulous, for subscribing. This just keeps getting better. You have a funny way of saying trash. All right, here we go. The city was okay. Marketplace. Khadgorath, Zeldiana, Lance, and Akita found... God damn it. Now I have to write 4 people's names. Okay. Found a large inn and rented 3 rooms. 1 for Akita, 1 for Lance, and 1 for Khadgorath and Zeldiana. That night, Lance and Akita retired to their rooms early while Khad and Zeldiana sat at the back table in the tavern. So I have notes, I guess, written in the margins, and I have a note here with a little asterisk. Remember, Akita has bladed bracers. Gets in fight, rips skin off guy he punches. Spoilers. If you're sleeping with someone you're soulbound to, how close is that to sleeping with your sibling? Or just yourself? Is it just masturbation? Aren't we supposed to find Kretz? Asked Khadgorath. We do not know where he is, Khad, replied Zeldiana. Well, I figured you would know. After all, you found me, stated Khad. That is because you have a link to me through our souls, said Zeldiana. That would explain it, said Khad. But then again, what? Oh, why wouldn't Khad be able to find her then? Why did he not feel this soul link? Okay, whatever. So we just continue to travel city to city? Soul docking? I suppose so, until Kretz reveals himself, replied Zeldiana. I'm going for a walk, stated Khadgorath. Do you wish to come along, Zeld? Oh, we're doing nicknames now. We're shortening each other's names. You know what that means. Okay. I'm too tired. I'm gonna get some rest, answered Zeldiana. Zeldiana then kissed Khadgorath on the cheek. As she got up, smiled, and went to their room. Uh-oh. Khadgorath walked into the dark, damp cobblestone street, soon after Zeldiana had gone to their room. Khadgorath wandered into the darkness for a short while, when he came upon an old lady and 2 guys harassing her. What's going on here? Asked Khadgorath. It's none of your business, said the tall, skinny man. Well, it is now, Khadgorath said evilly. These 2 boys, they're trying to take my money, stuttered the old lady. That is a lie, said the fat, small man. She stole money from us. Khadgorath then took the money purse and counted 3 platinum, 2 gold. How much is in here? Asked Khadgorath. About 4 platinum, said the skinny man. Around 3 platinum and 8 gold, said the old lady. Khadgorath then gave the bag to the men and a few platinum to the old lady. What? The 2 men walked away, and the old lady asked for Khad to take... Wait, what? Oh, lead her back to her home. How is he supposed to do that? As the old lady gave directions, Khadgorath walked her. Like a dog? Khadgorath walked her, made sure she did not steal from him. The old lady led them to an alley where the 2 men waited. Khadgorath stood ready, his daggers out. The tall man jabbed with his dagger. Tall man, sorry. But missed. Khad caught the arm of the man and dislocated the man's elbow with his elbow. He then cut into the throat of the man. The tall man fell dead fast. The short, fat one then chopped down with his dagger, but Khadgorath parried the attack. and as he did so, he felt a knife go into his back. It was the old lady. As Khadgorath fell to his knees from the attack, the short man rose his dagger and jabbed into the shoulder of Khadgorath. Khadgorath yelled in pain, but tried to get up. The man pulled another dagger out, but as he rose this one, a knife, which soared through the wind, pinned the man's hand to a close wall. Then a figure, completely dark, slit the old lady's throat. Oh, shit! Not giving a second for the old lady to scream. Who's this character? The figure walked past Khad, again P-A-S-T, and in an instant, the street in the alley was covered in blood, for this figure brutally stabbed the pinned man so fast that the attacks could barely be seen. I don't think it's Akita. Akita has a claymore. The figure turned around and kneeled down to Khadgorath as Khad saw her face. His eyes widened. It was a blue-skinned elf. A blue-skinned dark elf. Chapter 3 is long as fuck. The dark elf was also a female. I know that. I just said her face, idiot. The dark elf was also a female who seemed to be a deadly assassin. "This will hurt," she said. As she smiled, her fangs were then exposed for a short moment. The dark elf then pulled the dagger out of his shoulder. Khadgorath winced in pain. The dark elf then bandaged his shoulder and moved to his back. At this point, he was a bit nervous. You do not let a fellow rogue or assassin get that close to your back. But he had no choice. She pulled out the dagger and bandaged his back, then helped him up. "There you go, pale. You should be fine," said the Dark One. It's an elf. It's a dark elf. It's okay. "Thanks. I am Khadgorath. And you are?" replied Khad. "I am Zeta." See if you figure out how to spell that, KTD. "A dark elven rogue." I like how everyone in this, whenever they introduce themselves, they say their name, their race, and their class. Nope, it is X-E-Y-D-A. "Yes, I figured a rogue, and a skilled one at that," replied Khad, which resulted in her grinning evilly. Yep, KTD's got it spelled right now. Khadgorath and Zeta traveled back to the tavern, but not in time. As they got back, Lance was cut open and bleeding, laying across a broken table. Zeldiana was unconscious, that is misspelled all to hell, and was thrown over an extremely muscular man's shoulder. Next to the man was a necromancer. We just know that. Khadgorath threw a knife at the necromancer, but the large man caught it. The necromancer opened a blue portal, not a town portal, and the man, as well as him, passed through into it. The portal closed shortly after that, and 4 smaller portals opened up. A creature who had rotting flesh and minotaur legs, as well as horns, stepped through each portal. These were known as Dementors. I need some water. Oh, God. Minotaurs. They're half demon, half minotaur. No, for reference, I spelled it D-E-M-I-T-A-U-R-S. The 4 Dementors walked towards Zeta and Khadgorath, but before they got to them, Akita dropped from a rafter and knocked one down with an overhead blow. Another turned to Akita, but Akita slung a punch at it. Here we go. Akita's bladed bracers ripped the rotting flesh from the right cheek of the Dementor. Maggots and roaches fell from the very large open gash, but the creature stumbled back. Damn things. Get my bracer dirty, Akita said, as he pulled the flesh from his bracer. But as he did so, he was knocked into a wall by that Dementor. Maggots were flowing from the skull of the Dementor that Akita hit from the rafter, now dead. Zeta stabbed the Dementor that was... Why did I write it so many times? That was walking to her several times in the stomach, spilling roaches and maggots to the ground. The Dementor then lifted her by her arms, and an undead snake came from the now open mouth of the Dementor, leering at Zeta. As the snake got into the face of the Dark Elf, she gave a massive kick into the hole she had made with the daggers. The Dementor, while making an ear-bleeding screech, dropped her, and as it bit down, the snake was chopped in half, and it plopped to the ground. Lots of ear-bleeding screeches. Dementors are Khad's self-insert for his own struggles trying to cope with Grandma's mental decline. Oh my god. I hope you guys are enjoying this at my expense. I have to incorporate Dementors into my game now. I know. I'll forget. Khadgora threw knife after knife into the Dementor, affecting it with an E, little, but knocking it back. Small worms and baby maggots. Babby maggots. No, I did write baby right. Okay. Baby maggots fell from the open wounds around the knives. Then, as a blast of orange-red smoke puffed from the nose of this undead creature, and it charged at Khadgoroth, who was out of knives, Zeta threw a knife to him, but Khadgoroth spun around and kicked the hilt of the knife. It screeched through the air and hit the Dementor in the center of the forehead. Totally didn't rip that off of blade. How Babby Maggot formed. Maggots are already babies, though. That's true. Maggots spilled to the ground as the Dementor smashed into the floor, shattering the wood. The last Dementor left, who now had Akita in his hands, then throwing him through a table. New paragraph for speaking. Okay, I have a note about that for some reason. Akita got up and with anger in his eyes said, "That's it, bitch. You're done." Akita then laid a series of punches into the Dementor, ripping decaying flesh from it on each punch. Maggots, worms, roaches, and small... I think it's supposed to be snakes, but it says snackas. And small snakes fell to the ground and scurried across the floor. The Dementor was now against the wall that was splintered from Akita's earlier contact with it. Then, with a final, earth-breaking punch, he smashed the skull Dementor, who fell to its knees, then completely to the floor. The floor was now covered in maggots, worms, roaches, and small snakes. Akita was crushing roaches left and right because he does not like roaches. Slowly, a roach crawled onto his bracer, and when he looked down, he said, "Ah, what the hell? Get off me!" as he flung his hand around, swinging the roach off. "I'm getting the hell out of here," Akita said as he hurried out of the building. Khadgoroth walked over to Lance, who was still bleeding, a cut below his eye. Lance was slowly breathing. "Do you have any more bandages?" asked Khadgoroth. "Aye," replied Zeta, as she walked over and bandaged up Lance. They then carried Lance to an inn down the road, a block away. Khad and Zeta rented a large apartment at an inn with 3 rooms and a dining area, as well as a fireplace and a couch in front of the fireplace. Very important we get those details. Why earth-breaking instead of earth-shattering? Because I was 13 and I wrote earth-breaking. The two threw Lance into a room, onto a bed, then locked the door so no one could get in. That's not how that works. We locked him in so he can't get out. Okay, whatever. Khad and Zeta sat across from each other at a small dining table. What the hell was that? Asked Khad. 'Twas the necromancer Kretz, replied Zeta. Khad was stunned. We have to find her, said Khad. He resides upon the peaks of Frostmourne. I don't know why I've made her Swedish. Stated Zeta. We will have to undergo many tasks and challenges. Then we shall do it starting tomorrow, demanded Khad. Hold your tongue, Pale. What is this we business? Replied Zeta. Khad sighed. You can have half of the treasure. Aye, said Zeta. That will do. But what will that other Pale receive? Whatever I do not steal from him, Khad said, as they laughed. See you later, Draven. Zeta then retired to her room after walking back to the incest-infected inn and retrieving Akita. Akita and Khad talked for a bit, then Akita went to his room and fell asleep. Khad left without a room, fell asleep on the couch after drinking a little of red wine. End of chapter 3. The other inn was insect infested. The one that was infested because they beat up the Dementors that pour maggots and such out of their injure holes. How's everyone feeling at this point now that we are like an hour and a half in? You're finding this a little hard to follow. What's so hard to follow? Please, questions. We are between... I can't do these fucking... We are between chapters. This is our time to wind down a bit before we jump into chapter 4. Which has a bit of girth to it. Where are people confused? I'll try to help you. Where exactly were the Dementors at? At that original inn. So the inn that they had rented before, the one that Khad and Zeldiana had got a room together. Damn it, Espada. I'll get to your question in a moment, Espada. When Khad went out for a stroll and encountered the thugs and was almost killed by thugs somehow, even though he could take all these other things without a problem. And then Zeta appeared. They went back to the inn, and as they went back, Kretz and his large fellow were kidnapping Zeldiana and had already smashed Lance through a table. Khad tried to stop them, but he was unable to, and they left through a portal, and then other portals opened, and the Dementors poured out. So that is where they came from. Oh, not incest-infected inn. Yes, it was insect. Why does every chapter have a new sex pal for Khad? Not true. The only sex pal that we have so far is Zeldiana. Okay? We have to mix it up. Clearly, I knew that Zeldiana was going to get kidnapped. We had to replace her in the party with someone else, which is why we've introduced 2 characters for some reason in that chapter. That was a hideous look. People seem to teleport from one place to another. I totally missed the transitions. Again, keep in mind, 13 years old when I wrote this, 20 years ago. I didn't just write this yesterday. Well, it wasn't supposed to be incest. It was... Incest-infected N. Incest-infected N. Incest-infected N. It was supposed to be insect, alright? It's hard to say insect-infested. I know I messed up the background. The fucking... The illusion's already gone. How's the cat? Are there any other questions before we start chapter 4? I'm going to blow my nose. And I'm actually going to mute my... I just explained it, Tomato. I just explained it. The portals. When they went back, and Zeldiana was being kidnapped by Kretz and the big dude, he left through a portal, and then 4 other portals opened up, and the Dementors came in. What about Kretz? That is spelled right. Where did this fellow come from, and what makes him the villain? It's the prophecy. Yeah, he's the necromancer. We established that back. Are you guys not paying attention to the story? I feel like you guys are concentrating too much on my embarrassment and not actually on the story. When Zeldiana showed up, here the end of chapter 1, and I read, I am half of the prophecy that must be fulfilled. I have a soul link with you. And then Khad later says, you're the person in my dream. And she said, yes. And that monster is Kretz, the most evil creature ever created. And at the last sentence of chapter 1, Zeldiana nodded, and they walked out of the small house and began their journey to find Kretz, the Lord of Annihilation. KTD's following it. Or if they're there because you stayed at a hotel while visiting Grandma. Did we cover or are we later told where the prophecy came from? I don't know. All we know so far, and all I can remember, is that Khad has had dreams in which he sees Zeldiana with him fighting Kretz. And he thought they were just dreams until Zeldiana appeared at the end of chapter 1 and explained, oh, those were not just dreams. That is a prophecy. So she clearly knows more than he does. And you would think he would then know more because they've spent time together. But I don't know if I get into that or not. There's still several more chapters to get through to figure that out. Snaggle said it better than me. What, about the Kretz thing? Remember, Khadgarth was created from the foreskins of 1,000 Frankenstein monsters. That is not what I said. Alright, you guys are getting unruly. I'm just going to move on to chapter. Do you guys still want me to continue? Actually, I forgot. I was going to ask that at the end of each chapter. Has the novelty worn off? Can you just get on with the next chapter and thrust atop a bloody meat golem with blood gushing from each thrust and tentacles come out and there's blood everywhere? Maybe. We'll see. We have to now. We have to see it to the end. I warn you, this story was never finished. We will get... If we read through this whole thing, it will just leave off. There is no conclusion to this story. Keep that in mind before you get too invested. This motherfucker... This show gets canceled mid-season. It's still funny. Keep going. Do continue. Well, I don't think you will top I Was Not Born. I want to see the cliffhanger ending. AI Dungeon will finish it. Oh yeah, I forgot we could have AI Dungeon finish it. Okay. Here we go. When Zeldiana came to, this is chapter 4, she found herself in a damp, cold room. She was in a bed with no springs, just a flimsy mattress and a cover. What do you think a fucking mattress is, 13-year-old idiot? The room had a toilet, that bed, sink, and cold concrete all around. A small window and a solid steel door stood across from Zeldiana. Zeldiana was now in rags, her jewelry and staff taken away. Zeldiana walked to the door and peered out. She did not see any guards, just other cell doors. She then muttered something in Elder Elvish, and small, transparent orbs surrounded her. They then teleported her outside of the cell. Zeldiana ran down the hall. I thought that said pissing. Passing many cell doors on the way. When she came to a corner, she saw a shadow of a man walking. She then quickly whispered something else in Elder Elvish, and a blue double helix surrounded her, then making her invisible. Not too long, 1-0, not too long after she had turned visible, a guard passed. Hey, I actually did the right pass that time. Unknowing of Zeldiana. However, the guard went to her cell and noticed she was missing. The guard then went down the hall, running as fast as his chubby little legs could take him, yelling, "The sorceress is out! The sorceress is out! The British are coming!" Zeldiana fled, running down corridors, turns, and corners. Apparently a corner is not a turn. It seemed endless to her, but then she stumbled into the throne room of Kretz. Kretz's throne was composed of bones. Human bones. At the top of the throne, there were 3 skulls. The skull in the middle had a sword stuck in the center of it as a decoration. A large chandelier hung from the ceiling. It, too, was composed of bones. In front of the throne itself was a small pool of blood built into the floor. Black square tiles surrounded the pool, and the tiles continued in a circle, covering the floor. Large black marble columns held the ceiling up, 5 on each side. The ceiling was cathedral-like, with a stained glass window which depicted Kretz. Zeldiana heard footsteps, and even though THO invisible, she hid behind a column. Kretz walked in. His skin blue. He had slender, long ears. He too was a dark elf, as Zeta was, or is. She was invisible though. Yeah, that's exactly how it's spelled. Kretz wore completely black. His robe, yep, Kretz wore completely black. His robe actually was black and red. But the red was so dark it almost appeared black. Now we're getting into my immortal territory. Around the back of his neck, to the tops of his shoulders, spikes stood out. These are all different sentences. On his right shoulder was a large drake skull, not the rapper, with a carved bone spike. Kretz had white hair, which extended to his shoulder blades. A long silk cape drug on the floor as he walked, baby dragon wing bones at the tips of the cape. Kretz took his cape off and threw it to a corner. It made a loud thud as it crashed into the tiles. He then pulled his robe off. Under, he had on black baggy pants and a black leather tunic. He then sat at his throne and let out a sigh. Zeldiana started to mutter a few words and jumped from the column, casting a bolt of fire at Kretz. Kretz, with a bored look on his face, held a hand up and stopped the firebolt. He then yawned and threw it in the pool of blood. Kretz stood and cast a spell which threw a web upon Zeldiana, pinning her to the floor. "Foolish child," said Kretz. "Do you think I could be defeated that easily?" Kretz then said some words in dark Elvish, and bones broke through the tiles and surrounded Zeldiana in a dome. "You will die, Kretz!" yelled Zeldiana, sobbing. "Silence, girl, or I will seal you." Y-O-O? What? Why would it? Okay. "Completely in bone," commanded Kretz. Zeldiana looked through her bone prison and stood as the web wore off. During the night, when Kretz had retired, Zeldiana tried almost every spell she had to get out of the prison, except high blast spells which would have killed her in such a small radius. I can't be defeated that easy. There are still 4 chapters in this terrible story. Hey! Hey! Khad was drinking a what? A George Foreman grill? The fuck is that? By the way, here's what the handwriting looks like now. See, much nicer, much smaller. The magic of the prison was also strong enough to prevent her from teleporting out of the prison. The next morning, she was awakened by a splash of ice-cold water. As she jumped up, freezing, she found herself shackled in magical cuffs. Kretz stood in front of her. What is that emote? It looks like a George Foreman grill. "I'll remove you from your shackles so you can eat and roam the palace as you wish, but if you try anything funny, I will know," said Kretz as he casted a spell. A green helix about 3 feet tall formed, and a giant eyeball was the result. "Eye of Vox, follow this sorceress. Make sure she does nothing funny," commanded Kretz as he took the cuffs and shackles off Zeldiana. Zeldiana looked away from Kretz and walked down a hall, where a guard waited for her and escorted her to the dining area. After she ate, she was escorted to the pit, as Kretz had called it, where they were going to be entertained. Kretz kindly helped Zeldiana into a throne and sat in a larger throne beside her. He can't be one-upped on his throne. The pit was a large circle. Blood-stained sand was its floor. The pit also extended 20 feet into the ground, built into the floor. The circle's circumference was about 50 feet. Misspelled 50. A pole stood in the middle, chains hanging from the top and chains attached to the bottom. Each chain had a cuff. Cuts from swords and holes from arrows marked the pool. Not pole. Pool, as well as dried blood. I think I meant to write pole. Two guards came from a gate below Zeldiana and Kretz. They walked to the pole and stopped, turned facing Kretz, and stood still. 2 more guards came out, carrying a man, probably a prisoner. Well, he's a fucking volunteer? Of course he's a prisoner. Who wore raggy clothes and had a raggy beard as well. The man was thrown into the pole and chained up. He pleaded for mercy as he was being chained. The guards then left, the man still pleading. Then, a few moments later, an armored man came out. His armor was completely black. 3 golden spikes on each shoulder. He was bald A scar extended from the top of his head to the bottom of his nose, across his left eye, which was white, which was a white glass eye. The man stood over 7 feet tall. The man held a huge axe in both hands, and a skull emblem was in the center of the blade. The blade of the axe was black, except the tip. About an inch of the tip was silver. What the fuck is this? Except the tip, just the tip. Yeah, okay, guys. Can you, Ath? Do your job and make it brutal, yelled Kretz. A disgusted look appeared on Zeldiana's face. Can you, Ath? The barbaric executioner slowly walked to the prisoner. A tear fell from the ragged prisoner's eye. Was his eye ragged? And dropped into the sand. Can you, Ath? Can you, Ath? You got it, Space Tomato. You got it. Can you, Ath? Hit the prisoner in the side of the face with the blunt end of his axe. Blood and some teeth that were remaining flew from the sobbing man's mouth and flew to the ground. Oh, hi, Mystique Gypsy. Oh, Chapter 1 was the best chapter. It's just gone downhill from there. And by best, I mean worst. This is a 20-year-old story that I wrote when I was 13 that I have no recollection of. An evil laugh came from Canuath, soon landing a powerful kick into the man's knee, crushing every bone. The prisoner cried out with pain. Kretz laughed on his throne. Canuath threw his axe down. It made a rumble as it hit. Canuath then grabbed the elbows of the man's arms, which dangled from the chains. The intermittent rhyming kills me. Canuath laughed as he slowly crushed the man's elbows into dust. Blood ran down the body of the man and down the forearm of Canuath. The prisoner yelled in agony. Kretz laughed harder. Kretz laughed even harder. Story, did you have a lisp when you were 13? I did not. I don't know, where have I... Was it the Canuath? That's how it's spelled. Zeldiana growing even more disgusted. Canuath picked his axe back up and swung it around fast, cutting the prisoner's leg off from the knee. Blood rushed from the haft leg of the prisoner, who was now unconscious. The sand under the pole was a deep red as it slowly spread out. The prisoner died soon after, and the large warrior Canuath bowed to Kretz and left the pit. Kretz then stood and began to cast a spell. A green orb began to form in his hand, a larger one around the prisoner's lifeless body. A blue object came from the body. It looked the same as the prisoner. It was his soul. The soul then went into Kretz. All of his veins that were visible bulged and let off a blue glow. For a few minutes after... Oh no, not the soul! Kretz then turned back and put his hand in the air. After he clenched his fist, the prisoner's body exploding, making a disgusting, vile mess. Zeldiana ran away from the pit, so disgusted she could not take it anymore. Why didn't she leave if she could just leave? She locked herself in a bedroom she had stumbled into and sat at a desk next to the bed. Zeldiana stared blankly at the wall, thinking of Khad and if he could or would come to save her. Oh, 20 years ago. The night That night, it was difficult for her to fall asleep. That is the end of Chapter 4. We are halfway through this monstrosity. Chapter 5 is a big boy. Holy shit. What's Chapter 6 look like? Chapter 7. The handwriting just gets smaller and smaller and smaller as I turn these pages. Chapter 8 short. Where is my gallant knight in shining armor? Khad. Typical damsel to shine. I was 13 years old. It was 20 years ago. You want creativity? You want... What's wrong with you? Fuck. Alright. Any questions on, I'm seriously trying to pay attention, but I can't. I need a summary. Alright, what, you need a summary of the chapter? Snaggle? I think generally this was, we were seeing what happened to Zeldiana. She got captured, right? Last chapter. So this chapter was from her point of view. And she was prisoner. Okay. She tried to escape. And she got to the throne room. Kretz walked up wearing his very detailed... Oh, do I want to become famous? I could buy followers, primes, and views on bigfollowers.com? Bigfollowers.com? Holy shit! Prob 2009. This is such a great fucking deal. Where's the fucking thing? So, yeah, so they went through. I need to, change the links thing. I forgot to do that. Anyway, that follows as big as Khad, 5'8". Khad, if you want my big follow to continue, I need the money within a week. Bigfollows.com promises to turn your story into Netflix original. I couldn't doubt it. You guys see The Witcher on Netflix? Not much better than this story. So anyway, yeah. So chapter 4 summarized. Kretz appears in his very detailed thing, and she tries to attack him. He easily stops her attack, throws the firebolt into the pool of blood, traps her in a web and a bone prison, and she can't get out. Yeah, but when I change the links thing, the spam stops. So I think like the bots can tell like streams that have links turned off or something, and they don't bother. I don't know. Either way, at least it would be something. So anyway, she can't get out of the bone prison no matter what magic she does. It's like a anti-bone prison, or an anti-magic bone prison or something. The next morning, she gets cold water splashed on her. Kretz says, you can roam around if you want, and then he summons an eyeball. But this eye is going to keep an eye on you. And if you do anything funny, I'll know. And then so she goes and eats, I guess. And then Kretz has her come to the pit, where they watch someone basically get tortured to death by Kenuath, a giant 7-foot-plus tall, barbaric beast of a man. And she sits through all of it, despite not having to, and finally can't take it anymore, runs away, runs into the first bedroom she finds, closes it, and thinks of, hopefully, Khad will come and save her. That is pretty much a summary of Chapter 4. From what I How am I following this? I mean, I know I wrote it, but I don't remember, like, any of this, but I'm following it just fine. Any other questions? And again, I will ask the question to you. Shall we continue into Chapter 5? KTD's somewhat following it. And she's, you know, you're not at work right now. There's something to be said for reading it versus listening to it. That's why I was going, originally, I was going to type all this up again and have, like, the screens, have the words up on the screen for you guys. But it, I wanted to come into this with as much knowledge, pretty much, as you guys have. So, and it allows me to have this, to be able to read this to you while I sit in my den with my cat. All right, Chapter 5. It had been a day since Khadgorath, Zeta, Lance, and Akita left the inn and the small village. Khadgorath awoke first at their campsite. The fire that was built in the night before was long gone. Zeta woke soon after Khad and grabbed some food from her bag. Khad took out his throwing daggers and walked to a tree. He backed up about... I guess I had to figure out how many feet, because I marked out a couple words I can't read, but I settled on 10. He backed up about 10 feet from the tree. One by one, he threw a dagger into the air with his left hand, caught it with his right hand, and threw it at the tree in one fluid motion. Every dagger sunk into the tree in about the same area. Lance and Akita awoke soon to the sounds of the daggers thumping into the tree. When everyone was wide awake, they packed the campsite up and began to travel some more. It's very useful, that whole paragraph about throwing daggers into a tree. Because we have not established yet, apparently, that Khadgorath is very good at killing things and fighting and stuff. After 1 or 2 hours, they left the woods. The four of them slowly looked. The four of them slowly looked the mountains of Helhai. I thought it was high top earlier. Whatever. The mountains were high and deadly. The first mile, however, would be easy, for it was a grassy hill, but it became steeper and the grass subsided. Jagged rocks covered the rest of the mountain, which would, in some places, be a vertical climb. Vertical, misspelled. The top of the mountain were there's mountains. The top of the mountains were snow-covered, and the four knew that somewhere at the snow-covered peaks would be the entrance to the Iceborne Caverns. Hopefully the music is not too distracting. An hour passed as they climbed the grassy hill bottom of the mountains. Now a vertical climb stood before them. Every time I misspell vertical. The vertically, really, cliff was nearly flat, which, yes, that's what vertical, with hardly any holes or rocks in the side to cling to, so they could climb. Lance then had an idea to attach a long rope to an arrow and aim for a large evergreen tree at the top of the cliff. Whoops, I thought there was a comma up. The arrow soared through the air and made a plunk that stuck firmly into the tree. "I don't believe that will hold us, Pale," said Zeta. "The way the tip is designed, it should hold one of us at a time," said Lance in reply to Zeta. "Then you go first," said Zeta. She smirked. Lance then began his climb. The rope seemed rather steady and showed no sign of breaking. Zeldiana walked into Kretz's throat. Oh shit! Now we're jumping over. Now we're doing. Oh shit! This is not a good idea. Usually you spend a chapter in a place and spend another chapter in a place. I'm trying to set trends here. We're jumping to the other place mid, like, beginning of the fucking chapter. Only one tip at a time, please. A little bit of snot came out of my mouth. Mouth? Nose. Hold on. Ugh, fuck. Okay. Teen Khad had a lot of repressed sexuality. Barely teen Khad. Where are we at? Zeldiana walked into Kretz's throne room, anger on her face. She stood up to Kretz and yelled, "Why the hell do you need me as a prisoner?" I not only need you, my dear," said Kretz, "but also I need that rogue." I almost wrote Khad. But I also need that rogue you care so much for. "But why?" screamed Zeldiana. "Well, child, you see, when I get both of you imprisoned, I can then channel the power both of you create together and become immortal," explained Kretz. "Thousands of years ago..." Here we go, Tomato. Here's your exposition of the prophecy, maybe. "Thousands of years ago, 3 were created. Khadgar, the elder wizard, not from Warcraft. Father of Khadgoroth." I guess it's my dad. Okay. "Zenithret, your mother, and I. We were created on 3 places of this planet. I was created here, Khadgar in the kingdom of Zentorlot, and Zenithret in Kelvine Forest." Zenithret, no, Zenepret. And Zentor, not Tarlot. So now it's like Zelda with There's some inspirations I may have taken from when I wrote this. Zentorlot, Zentorlot. Old Carelot, what? We have 3 pieces of the Triforce Essential. Oh. Zeldiana asked, "What does this have to do?" "Silence, Pale," demanded Kretz. "As I was telling the legend, we were created the same day. And we were not born, but created by wizards of this planet to protect this planet." Okay, wait, hold on a second. So if Khad's dad, Khad, was created, but then, okay. However, only Khadgar and Zenithret were to protect. I was turned evil by a former king of this city. The prophecy foretells that 2 children, one each from the created ones, would come together and with their inner powers defeat the corrupted guardian, which is I. Or they would both be destroyed and their souls combined would make the corrupted guardian a god. Ha! Ha! So you cannot kill me or you will not have immortality, said Zeldiana in joy. Foolish child, when the rogue comes, I will kill both of you. However, though I cannot kill you now, I can torture you, so hold your tongue, commanded Kretz, a saddened look now on Zeldiana's face. She got kind of dumb, didn't she? She was like kind of smart in the early chapters, and then she just kind of got a little kind of dumbed down a bit. Meanwhile, all 4, Khadgoroth, Zeta, Akita, and Lance reached the top of the first cliff and begun to slush through the snow. The air was thin and the weather still. The 4 walked for hours, and Lance became tired. He was now barely moving. Zeta turned toward him. Akita and Khad stopped and turned as well. "Come on, you weak Pale," demanded Zeta. need to rest, pleaded Lance as he fell to his knees. Zeta then kicked Lance in the chest, Lance falling on his back. Uh-oh. Hey, bitch, don't do that to him, said Akita, as he grabbed her shoulder and threw her down off of him. Zeta flipped to her feet and began to punch and kick at Akita. Akita blocked most of the punches and kicks, saying, "Cut it the hell out!" However, Zeta continued to punch. Then she did a spin kick to his ribs and punched him in the face. Blood ran from his nose, and fury arose in his eyes. Akita then punched her in the ribs, knocking her back. He walked to her and punched her in the kidney. But his spring-loaded blades on his bracer sprung and sliced into the kidneys of Zeta. Blood soaked into the snow, and Zeta slowly died. Her last words, "I will be back. All of you will die." What the fuck? Why did she turn, like, out of nowhere? Akita looked to Zeta and then to his bracer and put it behind his back with a surprised look on his face. Oops, said Akita. My bad. This is what I'm talking about. Why the hell did this fight start? Because Lance was tired and Zeta got pissed off that he got tired. And she's a dark elf, so she's evil. The three found a cave a couple hours later and built a fire. They camped in this cave that night. The next morning, they traveled to the Iceborne Caverns. The caverns were warmer than the outside mountaintop. The caverns also almost always vertically declined. The air was still. It was cold and damp. The ground was slushy and wet. The walls were of ice and clear. Water dripped from the massive icicles hanging from the cavern ceiling. So someone dies over that? You got it. You're being really critical of a story written by a 13-year-old 20 years ago. The Unforgiving Cadverse. The passage twisted and turned. The slush turned into ice. The further they traveled, soon they could barely stand. The ice was so slippery. Then, unexpectedly, they slid down an icy tunnel. Water was around them in a cyclone. They then came to the end of the chute, S-H-U-T-E, and fell into icy cold water. Quickly they swam in darkness, their bodies pierced with the chilling water. Khadgoroth, who could see in the dark, led them to a sandy shore. Sand? What? As they stood, a blast of heat hit them, and then subsided as they warmed. They now were standing, looking out of the exit of the cavern. Now you can see, yeah, he's elven. Of course he can see in the dark. Don't you know the rules about elves, Tomato? It's in the player handbook. They can see in the dark. God. Lance fell to the ground. He replied, "Something has my leg. It's taking me into the water." Akita grabbed Lance's arms and tried to pull him back in a tug of war between life and death. Khad ran around Lance. Two skeletons, both blue and covered with ice, jumped from the depths of the frozen water. Why was there a blast of heat earlier? Lance stood, his leg now released. One skeleton grabbed Akita by the neck. Akita punched the elbow of the undead beast, breaking off the arm. The skeleton then hissed and grabbed Akita with its other hand. The other skeleton had a scimitar, S-K-I-M-I-T-A-R, scimitar, like skim milk, and swung it quickly at Lance. Lance dodged the attacks and as able to draw his claymore from its sheath. Lance, I thought it was a scabbard before. Lance then blocked an attack from the skeleton and strongly swinging down with his claymore, shattering the skeleton into chunks of ice. Akita was lifted into the air by the skeleton, both of Akita's hands on its wrist. Khad turned to the skeleton and did a sidekick to the skeleton's ribs. The ribs shattered. Shattered. S-H-A-D-D-E-R-E-D. Shattered. And the skeleton screamed an ear-bleeding scream. Oh, we haven't had one of those in a while. As it collapsed within itself, freeing Akita. Shitted and farted. Fuck. The three then regrouped and quickly exited from the cavern. The heat was now overwhelming, and they weren't even near the rivers of lava yet. The Iceborne Caverns. Rivers of lava. But they did, like, descend, and they went down like a cyclone of water, so maybe they... I don't know. As they continued forward... Look how small this text is now. Look how small it's getting. As they continued forward, the temperature settled to low 90s. N-I-N-E-D-Y-S. 90s. Then the mid-80s. It was odd. Lava was flowing, yet the temperature was standable. Then, it began to snow. The Blood Plains were located near the south pole of Hararath. Wait, I thought we were in Azeroth. Now we're in Hararath. I guess I decided not to use Azeroth, or I forgot that it was in Azeroth, and now we're in Hararath. Cool. It once used to be an Antarctic area in which temperatures would reach 80 below zero. However, a meteorite hit the center of the now Blood Plains, which woke many volcanoes from their sleep, and they erupted with a great force. The lava then heated the Blood Plains. Hararath, nice spelling. Hararath, H-A-R-R-O-R-A-T-H. I thought the Azeroth was supposed to be the name of the whole place, and okay, whatever. I have no idea. After a harsh, dry, long journey, after a harsh, dry, long journey through the sand, the ground gradually became black and rock-like. Small vein-like crags and cracks covered the surface. Light red glow emitted from them. The ground was flat, like the earth, and a red haze fogged their vision. Soon they came upon a village of dark elves. The village was surrounded by a stone wall. At the front, a barred gate. 2 guards stood in front of the gate. The 2 dark elves began to converse, and one walked away. The other turned and looked in the direction he was heading. Lance slowly walked toward T-W-O-R-D, toward the gate, his bow drawn, and the arrow that had the rope on the end was his ammunition. When he was close enough, he drew back the bow and let go the arrow. And let go. The arrow soared through the air, slicing the wind as it flew. The steel tip went into the back skull of the guard. And we're not even gonna fucking talk to these guys. Lance grabbed the rope and jerked back quickly. The skull of the dark elf ripped from his head, the spine still attached. The guard's body fell to the ground, and his blood soaked into the ground. Lance then ran to the stone wall, and his back to the wall slowly snuck to the gate. Lance pulled out an arrow from his quiver and peered around the corner, seeing the guard coming. He turned back quickly. His heart pounded quickly with fear and anticipation. Anticipation. A-N-T-I-A-S. Anticipation. The guard walked around the corner. Lance, with a quick jerk, slit the guard's throat with the razored blade of his arrow. And we're back to the national anthem. We've gone through the list. KTD refuses to stand and salute. The guard gurgled his peach? Oh, speech. S-P-E-A... Okay. The guard gurgled his speech, choking on his own blood. Which was... W-H-I-C-H. Which... Wait, which? I don't even know if that's spelled right anymore. Which was flowing through his hands now on his throat. Akita looked over at Khad and said, "What the hell does he think he's doing?" And I did do doing. D-O-I-N. Khadgorath shrugged and continued to watch Lance. Lance then slowly walked around the corner out of the sight of Khadgorath and Akita. Lance found a ladder and carefully climbed it to a guard tower, only peeping his head above the hole in which the ladder led up to. Yes, that's implied. Why do I don't need to explain it? A guard was sleeping in a chair. None of the guard's body could be seen, armor covering his body. Slowly, Lance took the helmet off the guard, carefully, not to wake him. Lance pulled a razor-sharp arrow from his quiver and slit the jugular vein of the guard. Why? He used a dagger like a second ago. Why is he using it? Okay. A gurgle emerged from the now bleeding rapidly throat. Lance hid the body after stripping the armor from the man behind a dead bush. What? Lance then put on the armor and descended from the tower. Now, fully disguised, Lance began to walk through the town. "He's probably dead," said Akita. "Yeah. Let's go in ourselves." Oh, we just don't care that he died, apparently. We think that Lance is dead, and we're just like, yeah. "Let's go in ourselves," said Khadgorath. Replied Khadgorath. Don't want to misquote myself. Akita and Khadgorath then walked up to the gate and cautiously looked in. The guards' bodies were laying there motionless, blood still pouring from their fatal wounds. Khadgorath and Akita pulled the two armored bodies outside of the gate and dressed up in their armor. However, they didn't have helmets yet. Khadgorath is chaotic good. The two walked back into the village, but heard someone coming. Khad ducked around the corner. Akita jumped into a dead bush. The body was there, facing Akita. However, Akita, ready to vomit, stayed motionless on top of the dead lump. A guard came to the gate and looked back and forth. "Where the hell are those guards?" yelled this guard. As he turned to walk back, Khad jumped around the corner, sinking the dagger into the back of the man, piercing the armor and splitting the spine. Remember, he said that he knew how to do that a few chapters back. The guard fell to the ground and died quickly. Khadgorath removed the helmet from the guard and put it on. "Akita, come out." "Akita, come out," whispered Khadgorath. Akita jumped up from the bush and wiped... Yeah, well, it says whipped. The blood off him as fast as he could. "Pretend you're a prisoner," said Khadgorath. "No, you do it," argued Akita. "Just do it, damn it," said Khadgorath. "Fine," said Akita, putting his hands behind his back. But he's wearing the guard's armor, isn't he? They walked through the town, people cussing at Akita, clearly fooled. A guard approached them and said, "Where are you going with that prisoner?" "The jail," said Khadgoroth. "The jail is that way, fool!" yelled the guard, pointing down the street. "Yes, sir," said Khadgoroth, now noticing no one around. Khadgoroth let go of Akita, who also noticed no one around. Akita grabbed the guard and turned him around. Akita sent an elbow into the front of the guard's helmet. The guard let out a grunt as he fell to the ground. Akita pulled the helmet off the guard and put it on, then hid the body of the guard behind the nearby building. Khadgoroth slit the guard's throat to make sure he was dead. Can't leave any survivors. The two now waited as guards and found another gate that led to a small stone keep. The two guards were standing there and let Khadgoroth and Akita in. Lance, now lost in the village, walked around frantically, trying to find a way out. Then he heard someone yell, "Hey, stop him!" A man dressed in black ran out of a nearby bank with a black backpack full of platinum. He ran into Lance head first, knocking Lance down and knocking the helmet off Lance. He yelled, "A pail! A pail! In our city!" Guards quickly surrounded Lance and lifted him, shackled and cuffed him, and dragged Lance down the road. The man in black laughed and picked up the bag and ran off. The guards took Lance to the keep. I understand what's supposed to be happening, but the descriptions do not help. Yeah. Khadgoroth and Akita found their way into the dungeon of the keep. Some were being tortured. Torcured. Tortured. Others starving to death. As the two walked by, they saw many various types of torture, it's misspelled again, being forced upon the prisoners, typically as torture is. One man was having his eyelids cut off, and a bright flare of light. Yep. Wait, flip. Or is that flack? A bright flack of light put into his eyes. Another was being cut with very thin razor blades, which made thin cuts in the skin, feeling as acid being poured onto them. Screams of pain and agony filled the dungeon. Dongeon. D-O-N-G-E-O-N. Akita began to feel sick, walking warily. Look how small. It just keeps getting smaller. It just keeps getting smaller. It's harder and harder to read as it gets smaller. Yep. The men conducting the torture were large ogres, with scars all over them, as most of their teeth knocked out. They had immense strength and could crush a man with one earth-shattering blow. Lance was now being dragged into the room, kicking and screaming. Khadgoroth and Akita could now only watch. They were outnumbered, 10-2. Lance was strapped tightly to an old wooden chair, which had sword gashes and dents. The two guards who brought Lance into this hall were now standing behind him. A dark elf wearing golden armor entered the doors and slowly paced in front of Lance. Uh-oh. Pale, what reason do you have for being in this city of dark elves? Asked the dark one in golden armor. And what, in Kretz's name, I had Inaruk? I had some weird other name that's marked out. And what, in Kretz's name, do you think you were doing in our armor? She can't put 2 and 2 together, can she? Was it a girl? I just assumed it was a girl. Yeah, it could be a dude. With hatred in his eyes, Lance lifted his head and spit in the face of the Dark Elf. The Darkling then sent a backhand into the jaw of Lance. "Make this one wish for death," said the Dark Elf, wiping the spit off his face. It was a dude. It was a dude elf. Fuck, chapter 5. Oh, we're getting there. The Dark Elf left the dungeon, and the two guards began to beat Lance severely. After a few moments, they backed away and turned to see Khad and Nikita. "Your turn," said one of the guards. Khadgoroth walked up to Lance and kneeled down and whispered, "You'll be out soon." Lance was cut all over his face, blood dripping to the ground. Lance is like a fucking whipping boy, isn't he? Lance was barely able to understand him, but knew it was Khadgoroth. "What are you waiting for?" "Oh, no, sorry. What are you waiting for?" asked a guard. "This," said Khadgoroth, evilly. Khadgoroth then did a sidekick directly under the chin of that guard. The guard flew up and backwards. The guard landed and went through a heavy table. The table practically exploded with impact. Akita turned to the other guard and punched the side of the helmet, knocking it off. He grabbed the back of the head of the guard and slammed his face into the ground. Akita pulled the guard's head up by his hair, enough for the guard to see the foot of Khadgoroth smashing his face and skull. Khadgoroth and Akita untied Lance. However, 8 ogres were left, 4 coming toward them. Khadgoroth pulled out an odd weapon that had 2 blades. And I even drew it. I even drew the weapon, so you could see. There it is. Wait, whoa. That's the weapon. Each curving opposite directions. Khadgoroth threw his weapon out to the right, snapping his wrist left. The blade spun and now looked like a spinning disc. It hooked to the left and decapitated 2 ogres and cut 2 others deeply in the chest. It then curved more back towards Khadgoroth. The blade came in front of him and he caught it at the hilt in the center. The 2 left continued to walk toward Akita. The other 4, now noticing what had happened, began after Khadgoroth. 2 punches flew toward him at the same time. He ducked the attack, causing the ogres to hit each other. Fucking 3 Stooges. Breaking their fingers. Akita tore the arm plate of the Dark Elf armor off, exposing his custom-made bracer. He triggered the blades to pop out of the side of the bracer, and 1 blade out of the center. Akita threw a right hook into the left cheek of the ogre. The 3 blades exited the right cheek of the ogre. He pulled towards him and ripped the lips and most of the cheeks out of the ogre, leaving a large bloody hole. The last ogre on Akita threw slow, powerful punches at him, hitting Akita once in the ribs, denting the armor and breaking some ribs. RIBBS, ribs. Akita stomped down on the bare foot of the ogre, crushing the toes. The ogre jumped on 1 foot, yelling in pain. Akita kicked forward at the knee of the ogre that the ogre was standing on. The knee cracked backward, now faced the other direction. The ogre collapsed upon its own leg, obliterating the knee. The cracking of bones thundered against the dungeon walls. Meanwhile, 2 ogres made their way to Khad, 1 on each side of him. Khadgoroth kicked off 1 ogre, turned in mid-air, catching the head of the other ogre by using his knees. The momentum let Khad spin the ogre around and force the ogre to flip onto his back while Khad had him in a head-leg lock. Khad landed on his knees and hands, doing a Hurricane Rana to the ogre. Fucking Rey Mysterio in here. Oh my god, where was I? By the way, could I potentially have another water brought to me, please? Khadgorath ran at the ogre he kicked off of and ran up the ogre, doing a backflip off its face, smashing the face of the ogre. Khadgorath landed on his feet. The ogre stumbled backwards. Blood oozed from the face of the ogre. Oh my god, I got really circus-eyed right there. Holy shit, that was bad. Khadgorath took off his dark elf chest plate and arm plates quickly. The last two ogres, not including the one that was fighting Khadgorath. Oh, you're on the other side? Oh, thank you. A Hurin Kadrana. Oh fuck, where was I even at? Let's see. The ogre punched at Khad, however, he caught the punch and put a kick to the throat of the ogre. However, he kept his foot under the ogre's head and guided the ogre into a wall, his foot still in place and holding the ogre's arm. With a sudden jerk, Khadgorath pulled the arm of the ogre, pushing his leg harder against the ogre and snapping its neck. It is neck. The ogre fell to the ground, Khad letting go of it. The final two ogres stood in front of Khad, grinning, as they lifted their arms to lay a blow to Khadgorath. A bolt of fire smashed into them. The ogres ran on fire and fell, where they slowly burned to death. A high elf stood now in front of them. Every chapter we gotta have a new fucking character, don't we? Let's get out of here. Guards are coming, said the high elf. Akita dragged Lance to the high elf. The high elf wizard began to create a small transparent bubble which got larger until it consumed the four of them. They vanished from the dungeon. Guards, at the time, rushed in only to find dead ogres and 2 dead guards. That is the end of Chapter 5. A lot of not-so-sudden jerks in this story. Well, a jerk wrote the story, so what do you expect? Okay, I'm assuming you guys want a recap of all of that. Did Velen die? No, they dragged him away at the end. Akita grabbed him and dragged him to the wizard, and they teleported away. So what is Velen doing now? He's unconscious, being dragged. So, let's do a quick recap if I can. They started as a camping, right? They had to. We'll do. I guess I'll go back and forth. They started camping. They went and they were traveling, and they found like a cliff they had to climb. Meanwhile, we had the exposition of the explanation of the prophecy, which is that there were 3 wizards or sorcerers that were created to protect the world, but one of them turned evil and corrupt. And the prophecy states that the children of the 2 that were still not corrupt would kill the corrupt one, or the corrupt one would kill them and become a god. So it's a prophecy. It could go either way. Meanwhile, so we had that explained. Meanwhile, the group travels up the mountain. Lance gets tired. Zeta gets offended by the fact that Lance is tired and kicks him. Akita goes and tries to stop her. They get into a fist fight. Akita accidentally kills Zeta because his bracer or whatever triggered when he punched her, and it sliced into her, and she bled out, and said that she would be back and kill them. So it was actually an accident. He himself recognizes himself as evil and corrupt, but reveals in this. I love it. Well, the evil dude has to reveal the plans, right? I hope more wrestling moves are performed. Yeah. So they kill her and they leave, and they find the caverns. It's very slick and icy. Oh, Revel's in this. I'm sorry. See, I can't read or write. As evident. They slip down, they go down, they descend into these caverns. They get to a part that's too slippery or whatever, and a vortex of water or some shit sucks them down. They get to the end of it, which there's an exit at the bottom, which I guess leads to these blood plains. They kill some skeletons. Leads to these blood plains, and there's this dark elf city that they infiltrate. They kill some guards, get their armor. A bank robber runs into Lance and knocks his helmet off. So the guards see that he's an outsider and not welcome there. So they take him prisoner. Meanwhile, Khad and Akita make their way to the prison, coincidentally. See people being tortured. Lance is brought in. They have some probably higher-ranking dark elf in there asking what you're doing here and why you're wearing our armor. He spits in his face. Gets a backhand. The guards beat him up for a while. They turn to Khad and Akita. They don't know that they're guards, and say, "Okay, your turn to beat him up." And that's when they turn on those guards. They kill the guards. Kill some ogres. Yeah, there's these big ogres that are doing the torturing. Kill these ogres. And were they in trouble? There's a lot of like saving in this, right? Like one character is in trouble and another character shows up to save them. Like almost every character is introduced, including Khad himself. I think Velen, what happened to him, by the way? He was only in chapter 1. One of the ogres gets blasted by this high elf dude. We don't know what his name is yet. Akita grabs Lance, he's breathing, but he's busted and bloody and kind of unconscious. Pulls them all together. High elf makes like an orb or some shit around them, and they teleport away just as the dark elf guards show up. But all they see are a bunch of dead guards and ogres. So that's chapter 5 summed up, roughly. And then Khadgorath hits the orc in the face with a baking tray. May as well. Okay, are there any questions? Number 1, are there any questions? And number 2, do we continue to chapter 6? Chapter 6, not awful, I guess. To drink some more to parch my throat or something. You guys getting bored yet? We're in it for the long haul. Let's go. Alright. Lubricate the throat. I mean, I'm invested now. Yeah, but it's like when you're in a bad investment, you get your money out, right? You don't want to ride it all the way or else you lose all your money. In this case, it's time. Okay. Chapter 6. Khadgorath, sunk cost. Khadgorath, Akita, and Lance were amazed at what they saw. They were now in a gigantic glass dome underwater. Buildings stood as a regular city, and an underwater tunnel led to another dome. Another tunnel, which slanted up, led to 3 underground domes that were all directly connected with each other. Welcome to the kingdom of Zentorlot. Oh, we heard about this earlier. My name is Kildiar. Good luck spelling that, guys. I can barely read it. Said the high elf. When you caused the ogres to attack you, I was able to retrieve my staff, which is the source to most of my powers. Kill deer? No. Qildydar. What? Since you helped me, I teleported all of us out here. Teleported all of us here to my home kingdom. I was founded by Khadgor, who is one of the guardians. I marked out, I had Khadgar written, and I marked it out. So at this point, I was like, maybe I shouldn't use already established characters from other universes. Maybe I should make my own. So instead of Khadgar, it'll be Khadgor. But I didn't go back and change it in the earlier parts in the stories. I guess I figured when I was typing this up, I'd go, oh, yeah. And I would go back and change it. There's an E at the end. Khad, G-O-R-E. Okay. Oh, fuck, where are we at? Khadgor is my father, said Khadgoroth. Quildyar laughed. Sure he is. Take me to him. I'll prove you to be a fool, Khad replied. Khildydar. Did I change it? Khildydar led the three to the castle dome. Well, that's easy. Just go see the king. Just be like, I'm his son. No, you're not. I'll prove it to you. Take me to him. Okay, you're not an assassin. I trust you. I just met you. Led the three to the castle dome. After everyone was healed, they entered the castle. Akita and Lance went to the tavern area of the castle. Yes, okay. While Khildydar led Khadgoroth to Khadgor's throne. Son, you have finally returned home, said Khadgor happily as Khildydar and Khadgoroth approached him. So, okay, hold on. If Khadgoroth was the son, essentially the prince, I guess, of this kingdom, wouldn't the fuck they know that? And, okay. Khildydar put his hand on his forehead, confused at what was happening. Khadgoroth walked closer to Khadgor, who was now standing from his throne. Khildydar. You're thinking again, Khad. It's good to be home, father. The high elf brought me here as I accidentally saved him, said Khadgoroth. Where's the sorceress? asked Khadgor. Kretz captured her, said Khadgoroth. Damn him. Khadgoroth, you have to save her, said Khadgor. I know, I was trying to, but the high elf teleported us here. Hey, I didn't know you were the prophecy, said Khildydar, whatever, in defense. Khildydar, go make yourself useful, said Khadgor, frustrated. Where? Asked Khildydar. Anywhere but here, said Khadgor and Khadgoroth simultaneously. Khildydar pouted and left the throne room, mumbling to himself. Khadgoroth and Khadgor walked around the palace, Khadgoroth explaining his adventure. Hopefully it was easier to follow. Yeah, fuck you, elf boy. At the tavern, Akita and Lance were drinking ale and eating large chicken drumsticks. I don't know why that tickled me so much. A shaggy gang, oh, here we go. A shaggy gang of men approached them, about 6 or 7 in numbers. Who the hell are you? Asked one of them. taking an untouched drumstick Akita had in his hand. Akita glared at him angrily as the man bit into the drumstick and laughed. Khadgorath and Khadgar then entered Khadgar's room. Okay, so we're just going to leave that alone for now. Khadgar went to his closet and pulled out a small box. Now I've gone back to Khadgar again. Khadgar gave the box to Khadgorath. There's so much shit. Look at how much shit is marked out. If you can even see it. There's like so much shit marked out. Khad's not with the drumsticks. He may not be able to help. Okay, small box. Khadgar gave the box to Khadgorath. As Khadgorath opened it, Khadgar said, "It is the amulet of Blade Barrier. You simply say, Blade Barrier. Activate. Blade Barrier, activate. While wearing it. And a globe of razor-sharp blades will surround you, making an impenetrable shield that will mutilate anything in its radius, except for anyone inside, such as you. The dome itself is 8 feet in diameter and 8 feet in height." He's giving Khadgorath the technical specs of this. The spell lasts for only 3 minutes, and you can only use the effect 3 times per day. The energy of the amulet will regenerate at night. So I've been given a magic weapon in this Dungeons & Dragons quest. Or a magic amulet, and explained from the DM, apparently, how many uses I get per day. Khad, who's 5'8", yeah. "Thank you, Father," said Khadgorath as he bowed to him. Khadgorath headed toward T-W-O-R-D, T-word again, toward the tavern, knowing Akita and Lance would be there. By the way, I have to ask, those that have like KTD and, well, I don't know if Draz is even here, but like KTD and Freshmaker, are my descriptions as bad when I run my D&D games as they have been in this? It feels like they are. It feels like I haven't changed. All right. He saw Akita Lance sitting down, eating, and 7 men laying around the tavern. Here, let me start that over. Khadgorath headed toward the tavern, knowing Akita and Lance would be there. When he entered the tavern, he saw Akita and Lance sitting down, eating, and 7 men laying around the tavern, all unconscious and beaten, I mean. "Why can't you two go to a tavern and not get into a fight?" asked Khadgorath. "Dunno," said Akita. Lance shrugging. "He started it." Akita pointed at one of the unconscious bodies. Khadgorath sighed and said, "We will have to stay at this kingdom for a couple of days. Get some rest. Get some rest, buy supplies. We have a long journey ahead of us." Akita and Lance continued to eat. Khadgorath left the castle. You know what? Khadgorath never eats, does he? He has only consumed like 1 glass of red wine this whole time, it seems. And walked amongst the underwater city. Sea creatures swam by the large glass domes. The view of the endless water above and out to the sides of the dome was remarkable. Thousands of fish swam near the domes, just as birds in the sky. He only needs to eat 3 chicken drumsticks every 5 days. Khadgorath entered a small tavern and sat at the bar. He ordered a bottle of red wine and thought of Zeldiana. Soon after, a red-haired dwarf with a long beard sat beside him. "What worries you?" said the dwarf. Why the fuck did I do? Look how I wrote this word. Look how I wrote Khadgorath. It's like I decided to make it like curvy for some reason. Look at this. Every 3 + 1 D3 days. That's right. Khadgoroth looked over to him and smirked. A good friend of mine by the name of Zeldiana was kidnapped. Oh, I'm not saying girlfriend, just a good friend. By an evil necromancer named Kretz, replied Khad. Ah, replied the dwarf. Well, let's get you a nice dwarven ale. Sure, they are a little hairy, but they make up for it in the sack. Oh, not ale, gal. A dwarven gal. I was like, why is ale hairy? That's this motherfucker. Let's get you a nice dwarven gal. Sure, they are a little hairy, but they make up for it in the sack. Fuck. No X, it's a Z. Okay. Khad chuckled. Haha, that's alright. Oh, by the way, what is your name? Here we go. They've always got to say their fucking class. What's your name? I'm a warrior and go by the name of Dezel. I'm disappointed. We will never know what your teacher thought of this story. She didn't get all this. There's just chapter 1 is what she got. I got 100% on this. I know that. The rest of it, no one has ever read. This is the world premiere, as stated before, of most of this, other than chapter 1. Replied the dwarf. And my elf friend, what is yours? Khadgoroth. Hey, would you like to help me in finding Zeldiana? Asked Khad. Sure, I'll help you. This place is boring. The dwarven women here shave too often. Nothing to hang on to. Replied Dezel. Right, said Khad. That's enough of that. I'm going to have nightmares for months. Okay. Meanwhile, Zeldiana awoke and found herself in a dungeon cell with glowing green cuffs around her wrists. Zeldiana tried to teleport out of the cell, but her magic would not work. So she got cuffed at some point. The cuffs prevented her from casting in any type of magic. Ha, yeah, they did that to me too, said a voice from the corner. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. But who are you? Asked Zeldiana. Here we go. I am a druid who was wrought in one of those, who was caught in one of Kretz's villages. I have had the cuffs on for years now. The food here is horrible, but I will get out one day and destroy Kretz. Why is he so evil and cruel anyway? Asked Zeldiana. Well, besides the fact that he's a dark elf, but also Kretz is a simple village. Wait, what? Well, besides the fact he is a dark elf, but also Kretz was a simple villager training minorly in necromancy as a hobby. What? No. He told us last fucking chapter he was one of the 3 wizards created to protect humanity or mankind or whatever. And she knows this. One night, the Pales invaded, and Kretz's wife was murdered horribly. Soon after, Kretz abandoned Abbandoned, his daughter, who was a mere infant at the time. The infant reminded Kretz of his wife, and he could no longer stand being near her. The memories of his wife would bring more than a tear to even his eyes, replied the voice. How do you know about all this? Asked Zeldiana. I hear guards talk here and there. After all, I've been here for years. I've lost track of how many. So Kretz is a tragic villain. Apparently he is now. I guess we just gave up the exposition earlier. Okay. Zeldiana. He said he was a druid. Right here, it says, I am... Well, I do have sorcerer marked out. And druid written above it. But, down here, Zeldiana told the sorcerer about the prophecy, and Khad and the execution Kretz forced her to watch. The sorcerer told a bit about himself as well. His name revealed to be Zellinger, the druid of the Seventh Ring. He said the title. In Zentorlot, Khadgoroth led Dezel to Khadgar's castle and showed him a room to sleep in for the night. Akita, and I guess all you have to do is just show up and drink next to Khad, and he's like, "You want to be part of the party?" And you're just set. Akita and Lance were still out, hopping from tavern to tavern. On the way back to find where Akita and Lance were drinking, Khadgoroth ran into a familiar human monk. "Oh! Khad," said Velen. "I thought you died back there." "Nah, a sorceress named Zeldiana saved us. However, now she is being held captive by Kretz, and I will save her," replied Khadgoroth. "Your fucking life story, dude." "Well, I'll come along. After all, she saved me too," stated Velen. "Oh, and I have a pal that will come." We are just picking up like 1,000 fucking people here. "And I have a pal that will come with us. And and be very helpful." "Who would that be?" asked Khadgoroth. Oh no. Oh no. "Who would that be?" asked Khadgoroth. "Rickanork, the paladin." Oh jeez, Rick, I don't know about this cat guy. Rickanork. Rick and Norty. Oh fuck me. Oh god. Oh. Good lord. Okay. "He could heal us when we are wounded," replied Velen. "Bleh. A paladin? I hate paladins. Oh well, he'll be a good meat shield. And paladins are too proud to run from a fight and save their own lives. However, he will complain about being around a rogue. Fine, he can come, but keep him out of my way. Or out of the way." Eventually, Khadgoroth, Velen, and Rickanork found Akita and Lance, and walked back to the castle, where they found their own rooms and rested for the night. The next morning, Rickanork began to get on Khad's nerves by insisting the 6 of them, I even wrote 5 and had to mark it out, 6 of them were blessed at the church. However, only Lance, Akita, Velen, and Rickanork went to be blessed. Khadgoroth and Dezel, oh see, I forgot Dezel. I didn't write Dezel earlier. Waited outside. There's too many characters now. I've made so many fucking characters, I can't even keep track of them anymore. Sounds like you should get a good lawyer and take all these IP thieves to court. I know! Look at all this shit I created 20 years ago. No, Velen's not the one. I'm the one, or Khad's the one, going, bleh, a paladin, da-da-da-da-da. Not Velen. That was Khad's response. Okay. Kegorth and Dezel waited outside. After about an hour of blessing, they finally were able to leave Zentorlot through a long, winding tunnel to the surface from the underground portion of the city. When they surfaced, they found Kildadar running to them, begging to come with the group. Kegorth led him, but told him not to get in the way. Fuck me. What? We're just going to have an army of people and not to do anything stupid. Now the group of 7 men walked across what seemed to be an endless expanse of cracked earth. The sun beat heavily down upon them, the temperature above 90 degrees. After what seemed like hours, they saw a wall of green. Yep. They saw a wall of green they were about to enter. The barren wood. A forest. Okay. A forest in the middle of a desert. No, we're not still in the underwater dome. We left. I just said that. We went up the tunnel. Though it says a forest in, and there's no space, so I thought it said a foreskin in the middle of the desert. And I'm like, why would I have written that? So I really had to look at it. The barren wood is more of an illusion that has never been dispelled. Odd creatures that would appear to be in most people's nightmares inhabit this forest. No one has ever made it past. However, the desert heat and dryness would cause more of an agonizing death. The 7 now stood at the edge of the barren wood. Khadgor has to collect 1,000 foreskins to prove his love. This place is cursed of evil and must be cleansed by my holy blade, said Rickanork. Khadgor rolled his eyes and then entered the forest. The others followed close behind. The inside of the forest was much different than the outside. The outside looked almost welcoming. The inside seemed to be full of gray, decaying trees. The sky was now dark, and moonlight was the only light anywhere. What was behind them before, the desert, was now part of the barren wood. They were now a part of the illusion, and it seemed like there was no way out. Kildadar tried to dispel the forest, but it was in vain. V-A-I-N. No, that's right. I think. Nothing he could do would depart this forest. It's another desert foreskin level. Mabby, it may be why. We should have walked around, suggested Lance. Aye, why didn't you have this great idea before we came into this hellhole? Asked Dezel angrily. I guess between 7 fucking people, no one thought, let's not go into this woods, this forest that no one returns from. Lance shrugged and sat down. Khadgor looked around for a bit and said, well, we may as well camp for now. Someone get some wood for a fire. What are you gonna do? Rub wood together? Asked Kildadar. Aren't you a mage? Kildadar? What? You're an idiot, you pale stick of a man, said Dezel. You have fire spells, you lanky fool. Yeah, see, fucking Dezel knows. Kildadar had a look of remembrance on his face. Why is everyone so dumb? Then sat down as well, his back against a tree. Rickanork came back, his arms full of wood. Lance set up the wood to burn long. Kildadar set it ablaze, and everyone but Khadgor got to sleep. Rubbing wood. God damn it! At the same time, Kretz was in his dungeon, helping with a few gruesome tortures. A guard cautiously walked up to him and saluted him to gain his attention. What do you want? Asked Kretz. We have found Zeta, your daughter, replied the guard. I know who my daughter is. Bring her to me. Sir Kretz. She is dead, replied the guard. It looks she was killed by another rogue. That's not what happened. Akita killed her, not Khad. We found her at Hell High Mountains. So I retconned it, I guess, that Khad killed her, but he wasn't even part of that. In rage, Kretz killed the guard, killed the messenger, with a dagger to the man's throat, and walked upstairs to his throne room. Anyone in his way of the throne was killed or badly wounded by Kretz. Kretz grabbed one guard and yelled, "Find out who killed Zeta!" The guards saluted him and ran to summon more guards to where Zeta was killed, and to bring whoever had killed her back to Kretz. How could you even tell if a warrior versus a rogue killed someone? Eyewitnesses, I assume? I don't know. Maybe the puncture wounds? Hell High is a school, not mountains. Not in this fucking universe. Alright, that is the end of chapter 6. We have one chapter... No, we have 2 chapters left. Chapter 7 is actually kind of short. Chapter 8, it's got a little bit of girth to it. Not too bad. We're getting there, though. Here's the one over here is what we've read, and this is all we got left on the other side. Do I need to recap all of that? Chapter 7 will surprise you. I don't think there's any surprises anymore. I think... we have a good idea that it's not going to surprisingly get any better. So, as a quick recap, maybe, of chapter 6, there was a lot of like shit going on in the city of or kingdom of Zentorlot, which is an underground / underwater city. Khad gets reunited with his father, who gives him a necklace of blade barrier, which can be cast 3 times per day, which will make an 8-foot by 8-foot sphere of blades surrounding him, it seems. Was it 8 feet? I'm pretty sure it was. Not that it really matters that much. Some guys... Khad's 8'8". Some guys tried to take Akita and Lance's chicken, but we find out later that they got beat up by Akita and Lance, and they were eating their chicken. Khad meets a dwarf named Dezel, has him join. Velen runs into Khad as well again. His return since chapter 1. And he brings along a paladin named Rickanork. The Khad is a little dubious upon allowing, because he doesn't really like paladins, but says sure anyway. Zeldiana meets another prisoner, a druid, sorcerer druid dude. What the fuck was his name? What's his name? Did we give him a name? I don't think it gave him a name. It doesn't look like I did. Unless you guys remember it, and I don't. Oh yeah, Zellinger. Zellinger, the druid of the 7th ring. That's right. He tells Zeldiana, while they're in prison, that apparently Kretz, even though we just had this whole thing before that Kretz was one of the people created, that apparently he was just a lowly villager practicing necromancy. His wife was killed, so he abandoned his daughter because his daughter reminded him too much of his wife, and vowed something or another, I don't know, or turned evil that way. But so we kind of retconned his, I don't know. Meanwhile, again, you know, we have like a big party of 7 people kind of forming. Killinger, or whatever his name is, rejoins the party as well. and they head across this kind of barren desert and find this forest in the middle of it that's actually an illusion that they know heading in is deadly, but they do it anyway. And once they get in there, they're like, we should have gone around. Whoops. And then they build a camp in a campfire. And that's... Oh, and then the big twist at the end of Chapter 6. How could I forget? That Zeta, the one that was killed earlier by Akita, not by Khad, but regardless, seems like Khad's getting pinned for it, was Kretz's daughter. And a guard says, hey, we found your daughter. And she's dead. And the guard is killed, and so is every other guard that gets in his way. And Kretz, in a rage, yells for, go find out who killed her. And that's where Chapter 6 ends. So are there any questions? 1, and 2, shall I continue? I can't believe I have been reading this fucking story for 3 hours now. And I can't believe you guys are still even here. We have to get to the non-end. It does seem kind of silly to go 3 hours and then just drop it, right? What's this? You're doing Steam. No, I don't want to update Steam. Get out of here. No, I can't believe that it's not butter. Okay. Well, that's helpful. Alright, no questions, I guess. Let us continue. Oh, this one's got like a subtitle to it a bit. This one's Chapter 7, and in parentheses, Barren Wood, All. What that means, we'll find out. Lance was the first to wake the next morning in Barren Wood. On his way out of his tent, he tripped over someone's bag and woke everyone else. Besides Khadgoroth, whom was laughing at Lance's clumsiness. The woods were still as dark as they had been before the group rested. After they packed up the tent and supplies, the 7 began to hike through the endless forest. Not the game. Again, this predates that endless forest game. Another group to sue. A few moments had passed when Lance told everyone to stay quiet and still. They dropped their bags and kept their hands on their weapons. Lance readied his bow. Reckon drew his double-handed sword. The blade itself was as long as his body. The hilt was shaped to fit with his gauntlets. Akita drew his long sword. I thought Akita had like a... Oh, I don't know. He's been punching things. Which gleamed in the moonlight. 14 orcs now surrounded the men. Kildadar was in the center of the other 6, protected from melee attacks, and could cast deadly spells upon the orcs. An orc lunged at Dezel, but its leg was cut off. But its leg was cut off at the waist by Dezel's axe. Kildadar scorched an orc with fire, but did not kill it. Lance shot arrows into the orc, sending it back into the ground. An orc struck Rickenork in the side, but its club hardly dented Rickenork's armor. 2 attacked Velen with massive punches, when Velen caught and snapped the orc's wrists, then connecting massive kicks to the face of one of the orcs. Khadgoroth put his hands on the orc's shoulders and used it as leverage to flip over it. Khadgoroth pulled a dagger out while in air, dropped it, and then kicked it into the back of the orc, severing its spine. On the way down, another orc met Khadgoroth with a club to the stomach, sending Khadgoroth to the ground. The orc tried to crush Khadgoroth's head with his club, but the orc's arms were cut off at the elbow, and the orc was decapitated. Khadgoroth got back up and wiped the blood from his mouth and poured the powerful blow had forced up. 9 orcs still stood. 3 teamed up on Rickenork and forced him down with the powerful blows to the legs. 1 orc was about to finish Rickenork off with a massive blow to the skull, but as he was raising his club, a throwing dagger met him in the forehead. There's a lot of Just as someone was gonna die, someone else saves them. There's a lot of that, isn't there? Didn't want to be in debt to a paladin, said Khadgorath. Khadgorath and Rekinork finished off the other two. However, Killador was hit in the side, breaking a few of his ribs. Dezel chopped through another orc after leg sweeping it. For fuck's sake. Lance sent an arrow into the ear of an orc. A horrid scream came from its mouth. Just a horrid scream, not an ear-bleeding scream. A lot of head injuries, yeah. The last four began to run. However, two were caught in the back by Khadgorath's throwing daggers. The other two were filled by Lance's arrows. Killador healed himself up. No, just healed himself. I marked out up. And tried to heal the others. However, Rekinork already did, and now was healing himself. Khadgorath retrieved his throwing daggers and his melee dagger from the bodies of the wretched orcs. I don't know what the difference of the throwing daggers and melee daggers are, but whatever. No, horrid scream, not horde. Soon after the seven had recuperated and sheathed their weapons, they were off again, traveling through the forest. Rekinork went to the back of the group with Khadgorath. What'd you mean not wanting to be in debt to a paladin? Asked Rekinork. Khadgorath sighed, frustrated, and said, You saved my life, and I did not want it to hang over my head that a paladin did so. That's why I saved yours in return. So, if I had not helped you, God forbid, I would lose my paladinship and disgrace my church. But you would not have helped me in return? Asked Rekinork. In reply, Khadgorath said, Yep, would have let them have you. And by the way, the church is fine disgracing itself without your help, Paladin. I'm supposed to be the good guy. What the fuck? Khad is a cock. Yeah, he is. Fuck the church. Khadgorath then walked up to Dezel and began to converse with him. Rekinork was now stunned and speechless in reaction to what Khadgorath had said about the church and about letting him die had he not saved Khadgorath. However, he thought if he had not saved Khadgorath, Khadgorath would have not been there to save him. Is that what Khad meant? Confused him. Rekinork pondered. Or did he mean even if he were alive? Would I still have not been saved? Rekinork shook his head and tried to forget the incident. It was much too confusing. As the men walked, many thoughts passed among them. Khadgorath thought about Zeldiana. Rekinork only thought about religion and defending the name of the church. Lance and Akita thought about food and treasure, while Velen and Killador talked about the forest. And of course, Dezel. No, I don't want to read this. Oh no! Had to try to forget out the incident, and it was too confusing. The writing didn't help. Oh god! And of course, Dezel was thinking of a big, hairy dwarven woman. Oh man. Cat's still doing just fine. However, what they did not know was that the forest was reading their thoughts. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Now we're just going to steal from Ghostbusters, I guess. As the men were walking, something caught Lance's eye. It was a gold flicker off to his left side. Akita saw it too. Both wandered off toward the gold flicker, ignoring... What? None of the others noticed they had left. Akita and Lance walked toward the gold, but no matter how far they walked, the gold flicker never got closer. Dezel saw a group of dwarven women. A dwarf's eyes have never been bigger. Dezel dropped his axe and ran as fast as his chubby little leg would take him. Where the hell are you going? Asked Khadgorath. Dwarven women! Replied Dezel. Khad didn't see any dwarven women, nor did any of the others. Not that they wanted to see any. Where the hell did Lance and Akita go? Asked Khad. So now Dezel was near some of... Wait, what? So now Dezel was near some trees, talking to the air, and Lance and Akita were nowhere to be found. No wonder no one has made it out of this forest. And the way things were going, they wouldn't make it out either. This forest is feeding off our thoughts, said Valen. That dwarf was talking about dwarven women, all the way across the desert. We cannot see the illusions they are seeing because we are not thinking what they are thinking, what they are. Thank you, Velen, for explaining. This was for the audience reading in case they weren't perceptive enough to understand what was going on here. Kildador replied, well, explain the orcs. I wasn't thinking about orcs earlier, and we all saw them. Khad smacked him in the back of the head and said, they probably were trapped here too, idiot. We must destroy this evil. Mabby holy water is the key, said Rickanork. Will you cut that crap out? Asked Khad. All holy water will do is make this place is make the ground wet. Rickanork ignored Khad's words and began to pour holy water onto the ground, and it splashed it around. It did exactly what Khad said it would. It made the ground wet, and nothing else. All right. Don't think of anything. Even the good thoughts can be turned against you, said Valen. This is fucking Ghostbusters 2. This is just Ghostbusters 2. This is literally, that's like literally a line from Ghostbusters 2. The four men stood close, their backs to each other, and thought, in wait of anything to happen. Well, why didn't all the other thoughts manifest? Okay, whatever. For one of them to be killed by their own thoughts. Lance and Akita continued to run towards the gold gleam. It now was getting bigger. Soon enough, they found what was glowing. A chest overflowing with gold. Akita cautiously walked up to the gold and put his hand in, pulling out a handful of gold. Akita looked down at the gold and it began to vanish. An arrow flew past his head and into an enormous beast in front of him. Akita looked to see a brown, hairy, 15-foot creature. It stood on 2 legs and had 3 claws on each foot, the size of Akita's forearms. The creature had 5 claws on each hand. This beast had enormous horns protruding from its head, or out of its head, such as a Balrog did. This beast had glowing red eyes and a short, dog-like snout. The beast struck Akita across the chest with its massive claws. Akita's armor was shredded in 3 parallel gashes. Blood gushed upon the ground, and Akita fell to his knees and then to the ground. Lance ran as quickly as he could to get away from the beast, and had to dodge the various obstacles, obstacals, that the forest provided. The beast chased him through the forest. The only thing that kept it from getting to Lance were some obstacles, spelled again, that it had to shred through, slowing the beast down. Or were the same obstacles. Sorry. Wait, OBS problems for shadowing? Years in advance? Wait, what are you talking about? Obstacle. Oh, I see. You scared me, KTD. I thought OBS was having a fucking problem. Shit. Dezel, stop thinking of dwarven women! It's an illusion, yelled Velen. I don't care! I haven't had this type of action for a while, replied Dezel. Soon, Lance found the group and was followed by the beast. All they could do was hold their ground and fight. There was no point in running anymore. Kildadar was first to strike, scorching the hair from the beast's chest with a fireball. Rick and Orc swung as hard as he could with his massive sword, laying a blow into one of the beast's legs. The beast roared and punched the ground, sending out a shockwave that knocked everyone down. Khad sprung to his feet and sent some shurikens, wherever those came from, toward the beast. The shurikens sank into the foul creature's chest, barely phasing it. Lance was able to hit the monster in the face with 9 arrows. However, he missed the eyes. Velen did not know what he could do. He was a monk, and he was his only weapons. Velen put these weapons to use and threw kicks and punches into the beast that would slaughter a man. The beast sent a backhand to Velen, sending him through 4 trees. Rick and Orc swung again, hitting the beast in its other leg. However, the sword was now deep enough to be stuck in the beast. Kildadar sent a lightning bolt into the chest of this super being, frying the now exposed skin. Khad threw throwing knives at the beast's head, one sinking into the left eye, which exploded in white pus and blood. The creature screamed a blood-wrenching scream. Not ear-piercing, but a blood-wrenching scream. Lance now took aim for the other eye. After 6 arrows, Lance was able to hit it right in the pupil, P-U-P-A-L, sending the arrows into the brain of the beast. The enormous monster fell to the ground, making a thunder-like sound and crushing a few trees. Oh fuck, how big was it? Soon after, the trees all around began to dissolve into hot ash and ambers. In a matter of minutes, the forest was nothing but black powder, which was carried away by the desert winds. Rick and Orc retrieved his sword and helped revive Velen back to consciousness. After healing all of Velen's broken bones, he was asked where Akito has gone to. "Why do you fools ruin everything good that happens to me?" yelled Dezel. Ignoring Dezel, Lance said, "Akita is dead. The beast ripped him open." Rick and Orc insisted for a proper burial, so the men eventually found Akita's body and did so. After the burial, the men continued walking through the forest. What? The forest didn't exist anymore. What are you talking about? The skeletons of all those who had been trapped in this forest were all around them, and the number was countless. Many had fallen victim to this forest, even one of their friends. Now that the forest was now no more, the spirits of those trapped in the forest were now free. That is the end of chapter 7. Shorter chapter. We have 1 chapter remaining. It is 7 pages long. Do you need a synopsis of chapter 7? It mostly just took place. It basically took place in the woods, or that forest, that illusion forest. They fought and killed some orcs. Then their thoughts started manifesting, or some of their thoughts started manifesting, which fooled Lance and Akita away from the party. Dezel got distracted by dwarven women that he was thinking of. Once Akita grabbed some gold from the chest, he was killed by this massive beast. A Balrog, I guess, is what it was supposed to be. Lance ran away, got back to the group. The group, after a hard fight, were able to kill the beast, and it seems that the illusion forest was tied to this beast, and when the beast died, the forest disappeared, and they could see all the corpses and skeletons of all the people that had died there. So they buried Akita at insistence of Rick and Orc, and continued through what was the forest, I guess. Oh! And on their way. On their journey. And now we just have one more chapter left. What could it be about? We shall now find out. Unless you guys have any questions, this is your last chance to ask any questions before we get to the last chapter that was ever written in the prophecy. I have been reading this stupid, terrible trash story for 3.5 hours now. I did not think, I thought maybe this would take 2 hours, and then I would use the rest of it to play Doom tonight, but it seems like this is going to be the whole stream, is this story. Which were the bits and pieces you remembered? I remembered that Zeta girl got killed. Like, I remember that whole scene. That she attacked Lance or whatever and got killed. I couldn't remember who killed her. And that's pretty much it for some reason. I'm not remembering. I remembered that Akita died at some point, but I didn't remember how. But I did not remember, like, pretty much anything we've read tonight. This has been like a brain. This is, other than seeing that this is my old handwriting, and my handwriting hasn't changed much since then, and knowing that I wrote this, this is like if I just picked this story up and started reading it from nothing. And with no knowledge. Like, this is almost all, like, it's brand new. Despite the fact that I wrote all this, my brain purged, rightfully so, purged its memory of this story. Alright, here we go. Chapter 8. The 6 men eventually came upon a vast grassy field. Lance spotted a small settlement in the middle of the field with his periscope, and I've got like a question mark in parentheses above it. Yeah, Vass, not vast. Vass, V-A-S-S, that's right. Vass, matey. Which the men hurriedly headed to. When the 6 entered the settlement, they found it to be more of a mercenary camp. The mercenaries were suspicious of newcomers and strangers from, what is that word? Foreign. Wow. F-O-R-I-E-N. Foreign. Foreign. To their camp. The mercenaries let the 6 men stay for a bit of coin, which Rick and Nork ended up having to pay. Solve for in. The camp was not bad at all. In fact, there were actual structures instead of tents in this camp. Only one parenthesis, or one quote for some reason. I didn't finish the quote. So the rest of this, I guess, is a quote. A tavern, an inn, and a small arena for dueling, where the biggest of the buildings, well, those were the biggest of the buildings. Rick and Nork was outraged that there was no church in this camp. Gee, I wonder if he's a one-dimensional character. Velen calmed him down and ended up sparring with him for training. Khad, Lance, and Dezel went to the tavern, while Kildor went to his room in the tavern to rest. So all 4 of them went to the tavern then. Okay. While in the tavern, Khad was confronted by the most popular mercenary in the camp. Now, where is this gonna go? Strawman Paladin to vent frustrations. What the hell are you doing in my camp? Asked the mercenary. Khad looked at him, replying, Why so much anger? Why you have to be made? Would your sister not go with you to bed last night? Oh, jeez, okay. That is it. No newcomers will insult me in my camp. Tomorrow we shall duel in the arena. yelled the mercenary, throwing a gold piece on the bar. "Buy a drink with it. Consider it your last." The mercenary walked out of the tavern, while other mercenaries spread the word around the camp about the upcoming duel, and how this newcomer would be slaughtered. Later that night, Velen trained with Khadgoroth in many various types of martial arts at the arena. However, Velen was learning more than what Khadgoroth was. That's right, the martial artist monk. Getting a lesson from the all-powerful Khad. Dezel and Lance stayed up, getting drunk nearly all night long in the tavern. Rickenork tried to pass some religion to the mercenaries, but was just mocked and laughed at. Fuck, man. The Dark Elves... Oh, boy. The Dark Elves now at Zeta's... Okay, oh. Okay, so we're going somewhere else now. The Dark Elves... I don't know what that word is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be arrive. Or maybe it's just marked out. The Dark Elves, now at Zeta's frozen corpse. A group of 8 of them surrounded the body and looked for clues. One Dark Elf found a note on Zeta and gave it to the commander. In Dark Elvish, it said, "If you are reading this, either you are a brother or sister, fellow Dark Elf, or an educated Pale. I'm currently with a group of Pales. One I do not trust, a fellow rogue named Khadgoroth. If you found this note, I am most likely dead, and probably to his hands. Zeta." But it wasn't him who killed her. That then began the 8 Dark Elves' hunt for Khadgoroth, to kill or capture him and bring the body, living or dead, to Kretz. The next morning, Khadgoroth woke to find Velen keeping guard for him. The others were already outside his door, ready to make sure that he was to not be assassinated before or after the fight. Khadgoroth knew that if he won, the fight wouldn't be over, and that 23, okay, we counted them, 23 mercenaries lived in the camp. Yeah, Khad, yeah, there's no, yeah, Kretz didn't have a reason to capture him before, so no prophecy or anything. Yeah, it's like I forgot, like I just dumped the prophecy idea, right? But I bring it up every once in a while. The 23 mercenaries live in the camp. Quite a battle for only 6 people. Khadgoroth and his 5 comrades walked from the tavern calmly to the arena. The mercenary Khad was fighting was on the other side of the arena. Others were in the stands, but only on the mercenary side. Lance, Velen, Dezel, Rickenork, and Kildadar stood near Khadgoroth and did not take a seat. Khadgoroth and the mercenary walked to the center of the arena. When they met, they stared at each other, ready to fight without any mercy. The mercenary swung a fist at Khadgoroth, but Khadgoroth caught the punch and sent a massive kick into the ribs of the mercenary. The mercenary fell to one knee. A small bit of blood surfaced to his mouth. Khadgoroth followed by jumping off the man's knee and sent the top of his foot into the mercenary's face. The mercenary rolled up as fast as he could and reached a sword from another mercenary in the stands. The man charged at Khadgoroth, however, Khad was able to pull out 2 concealed daggers. The mercenary swung his sword hard and fast at Khadgoroth, but Khad blocked every attack with his daggers and sent a foot into the face of the man, breaking his nose wide open, splattering the man's blood onto the sand in the arena. 2 mercenaries jumped into the arena and ran at Khadgoroth. However, before one of them got to Khad, they received a sidekick to the jaw from Velen, who was now standing by Khadgoroth's side. The other mercenary was punched in the throat by Khadgoroth. Then, soon after, a kick to the mouth was delivered by Khadgoroth's boot. The mercenary gagged. coughing up blood, teeth, and a bit of his tongue that he bit off. The mercenary who started this tried to turn his back and run. However, he did not know that Khad was a rogue, and you never turn your back on a rogue. Oh no! There was more. You never turn your back on a rogue. You'll never turn back again. Okay. Edgy. For this, the mercenary got a dagger in the back, splitting the spine at the center, as one does, as 8 more mercenaries entered the arena. Shit, there's a lot of marked out shit. Rickenork and Dezel were by his side. Lance stood back, ready to take aim and fire. Kildadar had his spells ready to cast upon the foolish mercenaries. Dezel chopped the knees off of 3 mercenaries running towards Khad with one swoop of his axe. Rickenork sliced one man in half. Another was only deeply cut 6 inches into his body. 4 mercenaries were shot in the head or neck by Lance. His razor-sharp arrows were deadly. The last 3 left of the 12 that attacked were killed by Khad and Velen, who used various types of martial arts. I guess I got tired of describing, like, and he put his boot in his ass and twisted, or anything like that. I actually have a mark, like, I have it marked on the side how many mercenaries are left. And I, like, am marking it down as I go down through here, as you can see, like, oh, you can see, like, on the sides here, that's the amount of mercenaries left. 8 more emptied into the arena, only to be burned to death by a wall of fire Kildadar had placed laying on the ground. More like a floor instead of a wall. Then why did I just say a floor of fire? 12 mercenaries were now left, all rushing from the stands. 2 mercenaries were killed in live 1? 2 mercenaries were in line. Okay. Sorry, not killed. 2 mercenaries were in line, 5 feet behind the others, both running for Khad. Khad threw a shuriken into the knee of a mercenary in front, putting him to the ground. Khad jumped off the grounded mercenary and set a foot into the face of the one still running toward him. T-word him. The mercenary fell back, most of his skull bones destroyed. The grounded mercenary tried to stand, but was met with an arrow to the forehead from Lance's bow. Oh, we got America. Three mercenaries attacked Velen, however, their attacks were in vain. Velen snapped the limbs of the men as they threw punches and kicks. One of the 3 still stood, but Velen landed a blow into the man's chest, which had stopped the mercenary's heart. Lance took out 4 more men, shooting his arrows rapidly from his bow. The last 3 were sliced apart by Rickenork and Dezel. The party of 6 now stood in the center of the arena. 23 dead or badly injured mercenaries laying motionless around them. If Khad was at Fort McHenry, the battle wouldn't have lasted through the night. Apparently not. I like how we made a big deal earlier of like, oh man, there's like 23 people here. That's not good odds for us. Oh, we better be worried. And then they didn't even do anything. We killed all of them. I don't think any of them hurt any of the like party at all. I don't think any of the mercenaries did any damage. Not even the main like big tough guy. Okay. Now we're going back over to Kretz. At Kretz's palace, all was chaos after the discovery of Zeta's death. I marked something else out that did not happen. I won't say it because it might be spoilers. Kretz called for 6 of the best gladiators in their best armor and given the best of weapons to be at the arena. The entire castle, C-A-S-C-L, wait. Met the arena for a special treat promised by Kretz. The 6 gladiators stood in the center waiting for the worst. But the worst would tremble at what Kretz was about to release. So this is 6 of his best men and best armor and best weapons, okay? That he's put in this arena. Or best gladiators, anyway. The gates opened, and a beast, which shocked all in the arena, and scared even the 6 brave gladiators in the center, emerged from the darkness. The beast was nearly 6 feet in height, and stood as a human. It had no mouth, but it did have 4 holes where the mouth/nose should be. Its eyes were white, its skin a leather brown. The beast wore black armor, which was a breastplate with shoulder pads that had spikes secured on it. The greaves were black as well, with metal plates overlapping. The arms of the beast were unarmored, and the forearms elevated much more than usual. Didn't I, set up that other dude, the big 7-foot guy, as his, big, tough dude? And now we're, ignoring him and we're making a new mini-boss or something here? The beast stood still, watching the 6 gladiators in the center of the arena, waiting for any movement. The largest gladiator, a towering 7-foot man, stepped out in front. "This is it? He's puny and worthless. He doesn't even have a weapon. I'll take care of him," said the man. The gladiator charged at the beast. And the beast opened his hand, and about 50 spikes shot out at the gladiator, cutting into his face. The gladiator screamed in pain as he dropped to his knees, holding his face. The beast walked up to the man and held up his right arm. A blade emerged. I made Baraka. This is Baraka from Mortal Kombat. A blade emerged from the elevated forearm and was used to slice through the hands, covering the gladiator's face, and cut his head in half. The body of the man plopped down onto the ground, blood flowing wildly on the sandy ground. And then I wrote 5 left, over to the side. Another blade sprung from the beast's forearm, and it looked at the other 5 remaining gladiators. 2 began to run at the beast, but were met halfway by the beast, moving so fast as if he had teleported. The blades of the beast sliced swiftly through the 2 gladiators, cutting them in half at the waist. The last 2 gladiators rushed at the beast, swinging their swords wildly. One gladiator connected on the beast, cutting its left leg off. The beast stood on its remaining leg as a new leg grew back. The 2 gladiators stopped in shock and were impaled through the stomachs, the blades emerging out their backs. The beast pulled its arms back, blood spurting onto the sand. The beast then sent a kick to one of the gladiators' head, making it explode like a blood-filled melon. What is this, KTD? Or Deadpool. Or shitty Deadpool. This was before Deadpool, though, wasn't it? This was 2000. This is clearly like a fucking rip-off of Baraka from Mortal Kombat. Deadpool as in Deadpool that one. From X-Men. I know Deadpool has existed way longer, but I mean that shitty version of Deadpool. But the other thing, Marvel fucking ripped me off. Kretz smiled. And now you've all seen the new weapon. It is practically indestructible and vicious. May the gods help Khad. Zeldiana and Zeldager sat in the prison and Zeldiana noticed the keys to the cell across the hall, and that no guards were around. Zeldiana concentrated hard and used her minor telekinesis to make the keys float to their cell. Okay, we established earlier that her magic didn't work in this cell, but that's fine. How did you get... Oh, here we go. How did you get that with the anti-magic cuffs on, Zeldiana? I used telekinesis, not magic. I've had it ever since I was born, replied Zeldiana, but not magic. Okay. The two unlocked the cuffs, and Zeldiana teleported them outside of their cell. Zeldiana followed Zellinger out of the dungeon and castle. The two eventually found a way out of the city, using illusions to get past the Dark Elves. They then traveled into the woods, now safe. For now. I like, didn't spend any fucking time in there, like, in any problems they would have escaping. What about the eye that was supposed to be watching her? Alright, whatever. Now we're back to the mercenary camp. Khadgoroth and the group walked across the rest of the grassy field, but were spotted by the group of Dark Elves. The Dark Elves ran at Khadgoroth. Okay, so this is the group that were hunting him. Yelling war cries, CRYS. The group got ready for a battle. The groups were even, 6 against 6. The Dark Elves charged into the 6 heroes. One was struck by a lightning bolt from above, casted by Kildadar. One Dark Elf was, however, watching from a distance, knowing not to try to attack. The other 5 Dark Elves were killed off rather quickly, not posing much of a challenge. Wow, I got lazy there, didn't I? The one Dark Elf in the distance walked away, heading back towards Kretz's castle. Kretz's castle. Soon after the battle, Khadgoroth was walking with the group, and the voice of Zeldiana popped into his head. Khad, I have escaped from Kretz. Please, come to Underfrost. I will be teleporting there. Khadgoroth stopped dead in his tracks, a smile now on his face. Kildadar, teleport us to Underfrost, demanded Khad. But why? We're so close to... Do it now, damn it, or die! Yelled Khadgoroth. Kildadar followed Khadgoroth's orders and teleported the group to Underfrost, where Khadgoroth and Zeldiana reunited, both happier than they had been in a very long time. The Dark Elf reached Kretz and told him what had happened. He was killed for his efforts, and Kretz stomped down to Zeldiana's cell. That bitch will die for Khadgoroth's mistake, yelled Kretz. However, when he arrived at Zeldiana's cell, she was not there, infuriating Kretz even more. And that is the prophecy. So that is the entire 61, 62 pages of horseshit that I wrote 20 years ago for your pleasure. What is this? No. So hopefully your next game should be a continuation. No. So at least it ended on a happier note. There's still questions to be asked, but everyone's reunited. We've got like 30 fucking party members. Kretz has revealed his super weapon, but we're gonna ignore Karagath or whatever the fuck that guy's name was that like tortured the one dude, because that was clearly the scene of like, here's the super warrior, right? And he's, you know, I'm like, fuck him. We want the Baraka Deadpool thing. So to recap that chapter, they got, you know, they got to the mercenary camp. Mercenary got mouthy with Khad. Of course, that didn't fly, because it never does, it seems. The next day, they had their duel, but the mercenaries tried to cheat. So Khad and such returned the favor. There's a big deal about the mercenaries, you know, well, we don't want to fight that many of them, but how's the cat? Still alive, okay. But they were killed off rather easily. No real problem there. And yeah, and then the special squad of dark elves that were supposed to hunt down Khad after they found Zeta's corpse and the note written on it, all but one were slaughtered by the group really easily. Didn't even bother with any descriptions. And then Zeldiana was able to escape using telekinesis, which isn't magic apparently, with the druid, and teleport down, and was able to mentally somehow send a message to Khad, who then made Quildadar or whatever teleport them, and then Kretz discovers that Zeldiana is gone, and he is pissed. Oh, he also killed the last of that special task guy. So that's it, guys. Do you have any burning last questions or comments? What did you think? I want to know what you guys thought. And I have to pee real quick, and I'll get to finally use this. I made a be right back screen that I have not gotten up from this chair. I have read through that story for 4 hours straight, despite drinking almost 2 of these. And I didn't leave once that whole time. So I guess, let me know. I'll come back and read what you guys have to say, if you have anything to say at all. Let me know what you guys thought of the story, of how stupid I was 20 years ago and how stupid I am 20 years later. Or if you have any questions, any burning questions. Anyway, I will be right back. Alright, I have returned from peeing. That was pretty amazing. Thank you, OLG. I do not believe it. When do we get to see Prophecy's End? Write your own prophecy on when you think that could happen. It's probably never. I can't go back and write. Like the fun of this was that I wrote this piece of shit 20 years ago when I was 13. Right? If I write it, if I try to continue it now, then it's just sad at this point. Still better than some of the recent Disney movies. I wouldn't know, but I'm probably not going to agree with you. I think now that you've refreshed your memory, it's time to continue writing. Book 2 needs to happen. Nope. Prophecy's End, let's kill Kretz. Just end it. Just to end it, young Khad doing his best. Yeah, the best wasn't that great though. So yeah, that's it. That's the whole prophecy or whatever that I gave up on in it. Like I said, this was originally a story that I wrote for an assignment. That first chapter, like I said, I turned in for an assignment. The assignment was like a creative writing thing. It was like in the English class, and it was like creative writing, write anything you want. Fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter. And I wrote that. The first chapter. Why did I stop? I think I just got bored with it. Which was the fight where Kagdoroth almost died? That was... Shit, what was that one? That was the one... It was the thugs, wasn't it? Yeah, because the old lady stabbed him in the back. And he should know. You don't turn your back on a rogue, because you may never turn back again. Yeah, I think it was that one. So of all these things that he was able to fight without much problem at all, it was an old lady that almost it killed him. But yeah, so I wrote that first chapter for an assignment, and then we had to do, like I said, I mentioned this a little bit before. It was so we had to do a senior project at the end of our end of our 4 years in high school, and it was a bullshit project because you were meant to kind of work on it the whole time you were there, and if you didn't do well on it, you failed your senior year. It didn't matter if you were a straight A student from freshman year all the way to senior, and you got an A, 100% whatever on every class. If you didn't do well on your senior project, you failed your senior year. So you kind of had to think of something to do. And at that time, I was like, I could write a book, I guess. That's kind of impressive, right? You know, writing a whole book and getting it published. So this was that. So I started writing this, not only because I felt like writing, because I always liked writing back then. I had written a bunch of like very short, like scary, like 1 page or so scary stories that they don't exist anymore. I can't. If I wish I still had them because I would read them because they're probably awful. Getting distracted with my background, but I wrote those. So I wrote this book or whatever. Whose phone? What? So I wrote this with that intention. I wanted to write it because it was fun, but also it was gonna be that. And then yeah, like after I got through like 8 chapters, I think I just got distracted. I got bored with it, and I just started doing other things. It's a meme, the phone thing. Oh. So that's, there wasn't really a particular reason. It wasn't because I thought it was bad. The whole time I wrote this, by the way, I thought it was a fucking amazing. I thought I was doing so awesome. I had notes, I think. I don't have them here, but I had notes of like where everyone is. I have notes right here in the front. It's like characters in party: Khad Goroth, elf, rogue, R-O-G-E. Seldiana, kidnapped. Okay. Lance, a human ranger. Akita, a human knight, Ripperino. And Dezel, a dwarf warrior. But those are the only ones I have written here for some reason. Yeah. And I had notes like of like potential plot points, I think. I don't know where those notes are though, because these are separate from those. But I had that. I had all that kind of crap, like thinking ahead of time, like what's gonna happen, where it's gonna happen, who's gonna die, you know, all that kind of shit. But I just kind of stopped. I don't know. I got bored. I probably wrote it for a while, and then I was like, I'd rather play video games, and I just did that instead. I mean, that's probably what happened. It wasn't anything in particular that stopped me. I didn't think I was like, man, this story sucks. I need to stop or anything like that. I was like all in it. I was like, yeah, this story's fucking great. This is good. What would young Khad say if he knew this was going to be on television? I mean, I don't. This isn't television, right? This is, honestly though, I'm sure young Khad thought that this would, not only would I be able to publish this, but maybe get a movie deal out of it or a TV deal out of it. You know, that they would make this into a TV show, like a Game of Thrones. Or something. Public access? Oh, fuck you. Are you saying this is public access? This is a little higher quality than public access. Look, I've got a cat. Oh, man, guys. My throat is fucked right now. From not only reading a book, a story for 4 hours, but trying to read it with enthusiasm. I'm sure towards the end there it was a little less stellar. Well, that took about the whole stream. This is roughly the time I would stop anyway. So that's good, I guess. That it was a perfect kind of 4 hours of content. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. There is no more of it. So I can't say, hey, we'll do this again sometime. There's no more. But I feel like I want to use this background or something again. Or something. I want to do more of these kind of like IRL things where I'm just chilling out in front of the camera or whatever. I know there was a couple times we did it where I would like watch videos or something, commentate on videos. So I don't know. Maybe I'll set something up eventually, but maybe I won't. Fucking knows. Yeah. So other than that, I guess it is what it is. The next planned stream is give me the photos of the pages and I'll force the AI to write more. Oh, that'd be 60 photos, KTD. Plus, what are you gonna do? Type it up? I don't want you to have to sit there and type all this shit up. There's so much better uses of your time. Yes, I'll type it up. No. There's so much better use of your time. It won't be a quick project. No shit. Oh, I don't want you to have to do that. It would be such hell, too. I don't know that taking pictures will work. I don't know that it'll come out very well on the camera. Especially like this. I don't know how the fuck you're gonna read this garbage. We'll see, KTD. We'll discuss it. But anyway, next planned stream will be Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. The idea, if Space Tomato's here, is to do some Skyrimming, and he'll probably leave us like he usually do at 11 because he's a jerk. Oh, he can't do this Monday. That's right. I'm sorry. You're right. I forgot about that. Okay. Yes, I forgot. You did tell me that. My bad. Okay, so that kind of works out. So Monday then, we'll do what we were going to do today, and I will try to finish the Doom DLC on Monday. And hopefully I'll have a little bit of time extra to do a Doom WOD or two that will kind of lead into Wednesday, which if we get all the DLC done on Monday, which will be Thief. We'll start the Thief games again on Wednesday because I like punishment. So yeah, that should be good, and we should be able to do that and everything. So yeah, so hopefully you guys will join me on Monday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for the rest of the Doom 3 DLC, and then we can get to Thief on Wednesday. Thanks for sitting here and listening to this horrendous story for 4 hours. I'm surprised anyone is still here. Good night, Khad Goroth. God damn it. But thank you for enjoying my embarrassment for a few hours. I appreciate it. And thank you, Draven, for resubbing for 36 months in a row. I know you're not here right now, Draven, but maybe if you look at the VOD, you'll know I thanked you. Thank you, Valen the Monk, for $1, and Hood Fabulous for resubbing for 9 months. I appreciate it. Again, it's never required or anything like that. But I do appreciate it, and it's nice. Thanks. See you guys when I see you, and as always, keep your buttholes clean.